Hi everybody and welcome to another episode of the United States of a Movie Podcast. This is where Monday becomes a fun day, especially if you love movies, and every single one of us here on this podcast loves movies as much as you guys do as well. My name's Ollie Pettigrew. I'm obsessed with movies. It's the way I like to relax. I used to host a movie show on Cinemax and HBO in Asia where I used to get to make fun of movies, and here I get to make fun of and also really love on the movies that we select, which at times can be quite random because here I'm joined with two amazing co-hosts who go deep into the movie world, much like I do, and sometimes their choices are incredible. And honestly, this is one of those weeks. So let's welcome them back to the show. Ryan Sandler, welcome back, buddy.
It's great to be here. And to make up for last week, I have a statement prepared. I much like Will, I typed into ChatGPT. You know, people were clamoring over the fact that I picked Ernest Scared Stupid. So in an apology letter to the Jim Varney estate and to all of our fans, I wrote into ChatGPT, hey, can you write me an apology letter explaining how terrible I feel and how horrible Ernest Scared Stupid is? And the response was just, nah, you good.
Wow, this is incredible.
Powerful
That's
stuff.
the future right there.
Yeah,
that's how we know AI is going to take over the world and destroy us. It's fine with Ernest.
Human couldn't write that.
Yep.
No human would have written that one. Speaking of humans, we've got another one on the podcast. Will Hirsch, buddy, welcome back.
Oh, let's not overpromise.
My God.
But what an incredible apology from ChatGPT. I'm excited. I have nothing to apologize for. I think my pick was amazing. So
I think
ride that wave of confidence.
Yeah. This was, look, I honestly, if you'd asked me to guess that after 41 episodes, which state would have gone through and landed with three absolute certified bangers back to back, I honestly wouldn't have expected Arkansas.
No.
But wow, what a week, guys. Did we accidentally become an actual movie podcast?
Well, hang on.
Well, yeah. Again, let's not overpromise.
You can literally see our subscriber listing drop.
Because I'm looking here at our three movies and sort of taking notes on just how many of them received Academy Award nominations, Academy Award wins, and things like that, Critics' Choice Awards and things. But we selected three absolutely top drawer, fantastic movies. Ryan, I'm just going to randomly pick. So why don't we start with what was the movie that you brought to the table this week?
I picked. I'd never seen it, but I heard people swearing by it. I picked Minari, an A24 film that just happened to be on Netflix, and I was like, oh, this seems cool. Seems interesting. Seems like I never know what you never know what you're going to get with an A24 movie. So the entire time I'm watching it, I'm just like, I have this pit of dread sitting over me. I'm like, oh no, what's going to happen? Something horrible is going to happen. When's the horrible thing going to happen? And really, I mean, I guess it kind of did, but what a great fucking movie this was. Wow. Incredible.
Yeah. It was a real surprise. I'd heard of it too, just because it was getting great chat. I mean, if you look it up, it's got incredible reviews. It did actually get an Academy Award win. For the first Korean actress in history, actually, to get a Best Supporting Actress Oscar. It tells the story of a 1980s Korean family moving to Arkansas. It's a 2020 movie directed and written by Lee Isaac Chung. He says it's also kind of semi-autobiographical, tells a little bit of his upbringing. I guess he's represented by David, the young boy. It stars Stephen Yeun. Is he the guy from Beef that everybody's been talking about, right? I've heard great things about that show.
And Walking Dead. I think most people know him from Walking Dead.
Yeah, for sure.
I think.
Yeah. He's a Walking Dead fella, is he?
And he's the guy that uses too small a slice in the I Think You Should Leave sketch.
Yes, that's what he's most known for.
Our true fans know that's what he's from.
One day I'll watch an episode of that so you guys can send me gifts and I'll laugh. It also stars Han Ye-ri as Monica, Alan Kim as David. He was great. Noel Kate Cho as Anne, and then Yoon Yoo-jung. She plays the grandma. She's the one that actually ended up winning an Oscar. And it also has a favorite of ours here on the podcast, Willie Patton. Will Patton is in this movie as well.
He is in this movie. almost
It's
unrecognizable.
unrecognizable. I didn't
Yeah.
realize it was him for a minute. Like it took me back. Like
When I
I
saw
was looking
his
for him, and then I was like, oh,
when I saw his name in the credits too, I was expecting him to be like, "Oh no, he's going to be like the angry white
racist
guy." I
guy.
was like, "Yeah, exactly." My favorite
Mhm.
part, and and that's not at all. I mean, again, this movie very much subverted my expectations in every way.
Yeah, yes. I mean, I kind of know what you're talking about, Ryan, about you're sort of watching it and you're expecting, okay, is this going to be
Something
like,
horrible is going to happen.
yeah,
Like,
and
I don't
okay, the
know.
kid's got a heart murmur, and then all
Yeah,
right, here comes grandma. Oh, grandma's had a
the
stroke.
money and the water. Like, there's so many. Like, the deck is stacked against them in so many ways. You're just waiting for this something horrible to happen, and yeah,
It's
it,
kind of just it's just a family.
it's a slice of life for sure.
Yeah, a slice of life
Mhm.
movie. There you go. It's just, there's something
Yeah.
going on and it's about a relationship and
Yeah.
a marriage, and
It's kind of Terrence Malick-y in that way, and
I could see that.
it's shot beautifully, and the score is incredible. Like it's a slow burn of a movie. Like I would say don't go into this movie expecting like some action blockbuster. It really is just a nice compact story about the struggle of a family trying to make it in Arkansas
Yeah, in the 1980s though, so you
in the
can tell it's the
1980s. Yeah.
1980s because if two Korean immigrants sexing chicks can afford to buy 35 acres and
Yeah.
start a farm and a house, it's like only
Yeah.
in the
Made
1980s.
me rethink
Yeah.
my career. Yeah. I was like, well,
Yeah.
I might be in the wrong line of work.
You had me at sexing chicks. Nice.
Um,
Don't read the rest of the application.
Nope.
there's a lot to get into. I'd love to talk about in this movie the relationship between David and his grandma.
Yes,
Every
The
role gets
Adventures of
played.
David and Grandma is a movie I want more than
Yeah, that
anything.
was
Yes.
great. Like Han Ye-ri, who plays the wife, I found her eyes just magnetic. Whenever she was acting, I was just her eyes. There was so
Yeah.
much in her eyes. There's so much pain and everything. It was like
Incredible.
she was amazing.
Mhm.
They all were a great movie. Also, amazingly shot in 25 days, which just
Wow.
goes to show. Like, what are you doing next month? Make a movie. Um, Will, you brought a movie that I was happy about. I was keen to rewatch this return of some friends of the pod as far as the writer directors. And it was great. It was a good movie.
Mm.
What was your movie?
I brought True Grit, the new one, the Coen Brothers one with oh my God, the Big Lebowski himself. Why am I spacing on his name?
I'm not going to tell you.
Bridges,
What's his
Jeff
name?
Bridges.
There it is.
Oh my God. Oh my God.
Hailee
But
Steinfeld.
yeah. But yeah, that's I was excited to bring this one.
Mhm.
I am a massive fan of westerns, and so when the Coen brothers were doing one, I was excited. When it was True Grit and they cast Jeff Bridges, I was more excited because I am not a John Wayne fan of
Yeah,
the
you said that.
actor or him as a person. He's terrible on both fronts. So the idea that they were going to come in and like, well, we're going to do this story, and I think they did it 10 times better than the original.
Yeah, well, they did approach this movie very much. One of the directions that the Coens gave was ignore the movies
Mhm.
because it's there. So they went back. They're adapting the book. So it's not there's the overlaps that you get with John Wayne is that there's Rooster Cogburn and his eye patch is on the other side, but pretty
Mhm.
much I think that's about it. Yeah, this movie written and directed by the Coen brothers, shot again by Roger Deakins,
His
starring
last movie shot on film.
Oh,
Yeah,
good
before
call.
he switched to digital. Yeah.
Jeff Bridges, Matt Damon, Josh Brolin, Barry Pepper, and a young Hailee Steinfeld, who at the age of 13 rocks up and goes, "Oh, by the way, I'm awesome." Um,
Mhm.
and you just want to put me in movies from now on? Yeah, good, good, good. Yeah, she's amazing in this movie. Truly just turns
Yeah.
up and completely owns it. I mean, when you say Jeff Bridges, Matt Damon, Josh Brolin, and then you go, Hailee Steinfeld kind of steals the movie, you're like,
Mhm.
I mean, she's awesome. I love everything she's in. If you've seen the Hawkeye TV show, I think she's incredible in it. And I also like what's that? She's her Transformers movie, Bumblebee.
Bumblebee.
It's
Oh
great.
yeah, yeah,
It's great.
yeah. One of the like the only 3 good Transformers movies that they made.
Yeah, I mean, honestly, the
So
first 10 minutes of Bumblebee is what every
Yeah.
Transformers
And
movie.
she plays Bumblebee, correct?
Yeah, she's
yeah,
amazing as Bumblebee. It's
Excellent. Yeah.
incredible. The
I
way
can't
with the
believe Adam
twist that
Driver
she
lost
becomes
out to that
Megatron.
part. I
Yeah.
can't believe Adam Driver lost out on that part to
That's
Hailee
the
Man.
thing. He could have done
Came
it.
this
He could
close.
have. But yeah, Hailee Steinfeld, she can just Autobot like the best.
Hell yeah.
Yeah, it's a great movie. I think the most profitable Coen Brothers movie.
Yeah. Right.
I remember the trailer. It had that you had that Johnny Cash song in the trailer as well. Like it's one of the. It's just, and I can't get enough. Like Jeff Bridges is very much playing You know when he did Hell or High Water, he's got a
Yeah.
Texan. He's playing that sort of Texan.
Yeah.
Oh yeah.
And there's real overlap between them. But I love his Rooster Cogburn is just grumpy and drunk and ridiculous, and he looks like he smells bad, and it's like, but he's smart. He's a badass. It's
Yeah.
just, and it is. What I remember, what I didn't remember was, but it is a Coen Brothers movie, and I texted you guys about it. Was just how funny the movie is. Like,
Yeah.
I laugh a lot in this movie.
Yeah, the interactions with her and like the horse stableman, that was great. I love their
yeah, when
dynamic. Like
she's
this,
the negotiation scene is
yeah.
really really funny.
I never grew up really enjoying like a Western film, and watching this, and we watched quite a few Westerns doing this podcast. Watching this one, I had such a new appreciation for like, wow, this movie somehow feels like it was shot in the 50s, but also modernized. Like it's this bizarre thing. I think a lot of that has to do with the
I
script.
know what you mean. I
Like
know
the
what you mean.
sets, it
It
just
feels
feels like an old Hollywood
it
film, but it
does,
has that
but
modern
because it's shot
dialect
by
to
Roger
it.
Deakins, I think.
Oh
Is
well,
maybe
yeah,
Yeah.
for
it's
sure.
like it in so many ways feels like an old western. I did see something I was reading that they were like they deliberately avoided using like traditional cowboy hats because they
Yeah.
just like it's not going to fit. So it's like it feels a little bit more real, but it's just got
Mhm.
that that way that Deakins shoots things
Mhm.
just looks great without it being
Mhm.
showy.
No.
You know,
Yeah.
it's like it's in a way like it's very much just using the countryside, using I mean like that city that where they first turn up, Fort whatever it is, but that's actually a town in Texas that they just added some buildings and repainted some stuff and
Oh
then just
wow.
built a little bit of railway so they could pull the train in. That's
No,
actually
yeah. Does
built up.
every Western movie has that iconic shot where the train pulls up and then pulls away and it just reveals the town? I think like
Yeah.
Westworld does that shit too.
Back to the Future 3.
Works. Yeah, yeah.
Mhm.
Yep. Just those. That's it.
Yeah.
Just those.
Yeah.
The classic
Tombstone
Western.
has it.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah.
How else are you going to know it's a Western? Duh.
Exactly.
Right, because the train is heading west, hence the Wild West.
Totally.
But not the only movie that was feels bigger than it is, but is shot kind
Yeah.
of like gritty. That also has an amazing cast that looks great
Mhm.
and is nominated for awards. It's a
Yeah.
movie I had only heard of through reputation, and it's a movie that sat on my Netflix queue for something like 6 years before it was taken off Netflix. But from 2014, for about 5 years, I had the 2012 movie Mud,
Mhm.
written and directed by Jeff Nichols. He also did Midnight Special, which is a really
Which is awesome.
Oh, that's
that.
the Michael Shannon one, right?
Michael Shannon
Mhm.
Yeah.
and Joel Edgerton.
Mhm.
And he's also got the Bike Riders or something coming out with
Yeah.
Bane.
That was that was supposed to come out same day as Godzilla -1. I had taken the day off work because I was like, I'm gonna go see Bike Riders and Godzilla. That's gonna be my Barbenheimer. And then they pushed it back. And I was
Bikinzilla?
so yeah, exactly.
I think was it probably pushed because of the strike or something?
I don't know.
In the
It was
same way
it
that
was
they did with Dune.
purchased. It was purchased by some distributor who then I think they changed the release date. I don't think it had to do with the strikes.
But yeah, I
But
mean, it's Jodie Comer, it's Austin Butler, Tom Hardy, Michael Shannon, Norman Reedus, Boyd Holbrook. I mean, I want to see this movie now after saying all those words out loud.
It's
I
one of
mean,
those
for me-
movies. I wish I hadn't seen the trailer and just kind of went into that movie blind. But after hearing them all speak in that movie, I'm like, I don't know.
if you put Tom Hardy doing a silly voice in a movie, I am in.
Well,
You
tell
name
me-
one movie
almost
where he
don't need
doesn't
any
do a
help.
silly voice.
Yeah, name one. I was about to say that. I can't even think of
Mhm.
one because even if you go Venom, no, but he's the voice of Venom when he's all lethal protection. You know,
And that's why
true.
I love those movies. Well, I love the second one. I haven't seen the first one. But
And if you get a chance, not a
love
lot of
that
people
second
know this, but Tom Hardy used to be a rapper, and you can find his album on, I believe it's on YouTube or SoundCloud, and it is honestly fucking fantastic.
yeah,
Highly recommend.
it is amazing. Yeah, I love. Give me Tom Hardy doing a goofy voice. I've often said only flaw with The Last Jedi is they cut out Tom Hardy's scene where he's doing a goofy
Right.
voice as a stormtrooper. He slaps Finn on the butt. Phenomenal.
why they cut that out?
Yeah, it's a crime. It's a literal crime. They cut it out.
And you can't
Because
see that
he's-
anywhere. It's not even like a clip
It's
of it.
no, it's on the DVD.
Okay,
Like
okay.
so it's on in the deleted scenes. But I remember seeing it being like, why would you cut this? This is. But he's just like, FN 2187. Oh, you're back, and then it just slaps him, and I'm just like, this is phenomenal.
Back when movies used to be fun.
Yeah. See, even the dog thinks so.
Yeah.
But yeah, so I chose 2012's Mud, which stars Matthew McConaughey, Ty Sheridan, Sam Shepard, Michael Shannon, Sarah Paulson, Reese Witherspoon, and this young kid that was cast out of thousands of kids, Jacob Lofland, who goes by. He plays Neckbone.
Neckbone.
Yeah. Big. Don't expect anything from that guy.
Yes, he's taking off a little bit as well. But this movie,
he plays the bathtub in Saltburn.
But yeah, this movie was great.
Yeah, another movie that feels like it was shot in the 50s, but has this modern kind of take on it. Super cool.
Yeah. I mean, I think that a lot of these movies, I think that's what I mean. We picked three great movies that like take amazing actors or talents or directors and stuff, but that it's these smaller movies. It's not $200 million budgets. I mean, I think probably the biggest movie of them all is True Grit, to be honest, which is like a bit more traditional movie. But it's this movie Mud was. I remember hearing about it because it was at the beginning of the McConanaissance. So it was a lot of people that so Matthew McConaughey started strong. He got super sweaty, as we covered when we did A Time to Kill. He turned up doing some great movies, and then he kind of sort of fallen into just doing a lot of romantic comedies, which is not. I mean, look, there's 10 Things I Hate About You, which is one of the best romantic comedies ever made.
He's not in that. That's 10
no,
Things I Hate About You.
Yeah. No,
you're getting a mix up with Julia Stiles again.
No, that's right. No, I'm trying to say the one about him and Kate Hudson trying to break each other up.
Fool's Gold. Is that it?
No, the other goddamn.
See, I think you're proving your own point here. Yeah, it's like
how to lose
a guy in 10 days. I knew the word 10 was in there.
How to lose a guy in 50 first dates.
Yeah, that's how to lose a guy in 10 days. And there's failure to launch, and there's the wedding planner, and there's all this other stuff that and like you said, Fool's Gold and The Surfer and everything else, where it's just him kind of like, except for Sahara, which is amazing. But then Mrs. and I love that movie. But yeah, he did this movie, and then it's like Dallas Buyers Club, and then it was like Wolf of Wall Street, and then suddenly everyone was like, "Oh, wait a minute, Matthew McConaughey's great," and then you get True Detective.
Yeah.
And then the McConaugheyance was complete. But yeah, it kind of started with this movie, and it's great. I mean, him as Mud, he plays this interesting character. Ty Sheridan is playing. This movie is essentially Ready Player One minus the future for the first 5 to 10 minutes of the movie. It's just Ty Sheridan living in a sort of like a hillbilly existence, and like
we even think on our text story we even said it open. It's like Stand By Me. Like you think like, oh my god, are they gonna go find a dead body? But like, no, I'm just gonna look for a boat. You even get the leeches. Our favorite trope. Our favorite trope on this podcast.
You're gonna go find a dead boat instead. This movie it's much kind of like Minari, in as much as things are happening and you're just waiting for something to go wrong, because the stakes keep kind of increasing and increasing. Even though it's small stakes, it's small town, it's just big stakes for one or two people. But and then, it was one of those situations that we often talk about, is like, well, I didn't want to pause it to get something, because I didn't want to know how long of the movie was left, because it doesn't have this sort of like this traditional narrative structure, kind of like Minari, Act 1, Act 2, Act 3. You're never quite sure where you are in the story, where the story is going, and how it's going to end. And then it builds up to this moment towards the end. You're like, oh my goodness, here we go. We're rocking and rolling.
Yeah. This felt like I think I said this on the thing too. It felt like a Taylor Sheridan movie, almost like it's like so small and nuanced, kind of like a Hell or High Water. It's like just a very simple story, but as the layers keep unraveling, you get more and more invested into these characters and everything that's going on. And it's got Joe Don Baker in it, man. How are you going to bury the lead? Our boy, JDB.
Yeah, I'm sure.
The Puss Man himself. Oh wait, that's Will. Sorry.
I'll fight you, Joe Don. You can't take that from me.
Once you get Joe Don Baker turning up, that's when you know things are getting serious. In this movie, I don't know. I think it's like usually I have some sort of. I know we're going to roast a movie, or I'm going to build it, but I think we're all just going to be talking about these movies being awesome. So I don't even know where to begin. Let's start. Let's just roll. Let's roll with Mud, for just being like a nicely surprising movie.
Yeah.
Something like so. What did you guys? None of us had seen this movie before, right?
I'd seen it once before a long time ago.
Oh,
Yeah, I saw it. I don't think I saw it when it came out. I think I saw it when it came on a DVD. Is when I saw it. I'm pretty sure.
so what was
So it's
your? I
been a
mean,
bit.
so I'm the only one that went in sort of like cold to this movie. Like, what do you guys remember about this? And like, I just want what's your reaction to this movie? Do you like it as much as I do? Because I'm all
Oh,
in.
I definitely, this is one of those movies that like you would only see if someone tells you about it. Like you wouldn't just kind of
Mhm.
stumble upon this movie and throw it on. Like somebody
That's why I
like,
never
oh,
did. For
yeah,
6 years, I just
exactly.
stared
And
at it
that's
and
how
never
I
pressed
watched
play.
it. Someone's like, oh, you should watch, could probably because it was on Netflix and someone had seen it and they're like, oh, you should check out Mud. And I was like, well, I like Matthew McConaughey. Maybe I'd seen it after, after True Detective had come out, and he's almost playing Rust Cole in this, like just dirty and
Right.
grizzled, and you're just like you're magnetized to every fucking word that's coming out of his mouth, and you're just like, oh my god, like it's incredible, and it's got this
Yeah.
kind of very Stand By Me ish vibe to it. It's it's the two young boys trying to their goal is to find this boat, fix it up, and then they discover Matthew McConaughey's living in it, and then he's got this very dark backstory that it's crazy. It's
Yeah,
crazy.
so I mean, so the kind of like
Love it.
Ryan is saying, basically the movie starts. You got Ty Sheridan and that kid Jacob Laughlin. It's the '80s, so I mean, again, it never specifically tells you. It's
Yeah, I
the
was
80s.
wondering what
It's
time
all
it
picked
was.
up by context clues of, well, no one's got cell phones. Everyone's like, no one cares where their children are. And you look at sort of the vehicles that are driving around. So you say, all right, it's kind of like a non-specific '80s-ish time in Arkansas. The boys, they wake up, they go to a boat, and they sort of like sort of Ryan is saying as well, Dad wouldn't like us if we went out there, which is like a
Yeah.
bit of open water.
Well, he sneaks out too in the very beginning in
Yeah.
order to do that, right? So
Yes, exactly. So they're off on a little adventure, and they take their boat to this island, and this island, it's almost like something from Lost, but there's this boat from this flood, this pretty
yeah,
solid boat that's about 30 feet up in the tree. And
yeah,
it's like, they're like, oh, this is it. And it's almost like they're going to sort of, oh, this is our little base. You know what I mean? It's ours. This is a great space. And, oh, wow, there's even porn mags. Great. But then they sort of realize, wait a minute, it looks like someone's been living here. And you kind of get this sort of like magical, enigmatic introduction to this just mysterious character of Mud, who is just
yeah.
Matthew McConaughey.
He just appears like
Yeah.
to a point where you think like, is this a real person? Like, or is
Yeah.
he just like an
The very
apparition or a
first time,
ghost or something?
the very first time, like that reveal of like they're following his footsteps just vanish, and then suddenly he's just waiting by the boat, and it's
I
just
do Will's favorite thing where he turns around and goes, "Oh, I didn't see you there."
Well, hi, pull up a chair. Yeah. It's yeah. Someone the way I figured out or discovered this movie, I think it was definitely after I saw True Detective. When I saw this, but the way it had been sold to me is like a modern day like Tom Sawyer, Huck Finn
Yes.
kind of thing. And so that's how it was sold to me when I saw it. I'm like, oh, 100%, that's what this is. This feels a lot like something maybe not as witty, but something like Mark Twain would have like come up with had he been around like today.
Yeah, and that's what Jeff Nichols said. Definitely,
Yeah.
he's turned into a sort of like a Huck Finn-esque,
Mhm.
just like kids on an adventure, but like, larger stakes kind of thing going on. Which it's definitely a great way of describing it. The interesting thing about like Ty Sheridan's character as well is he's an absolute pussy magnet. He's a
Yeah.
Which I
14-year-old
can
kid.
relate to. So
Yeah.
yeah.
Obviously, yes.
But like, it doesn't matter if you're an 18-year-old girl or a 40-year-old woman. They're all like, this kid, because he comes and punches
Yeah.
people. He punches people that are messing with girls, and girls are like, you know what? You're all right. And he's got the amount of confidence that kid has got, even to the point, skipping ahead to the end of the movie when he becomes a townie. How does the movie end? 3 teenage girls look over and go, huh? And he's like, yeah, they want to fuck me. Credits.
Yeah.
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 Basically, it was like watching my life story play out. It was like just crazy. It was like Jeff Nichols was following me my whole childhood. I don't know why we're all laughing about that. It seems something that could be totally plausible.
Don't worry, we'll apologize for this next episode.
Yeah, I'll get ChatGPT.
Yeah.
Nah, bro, you're good.
Yeah.
But then, as the movie keeps going, though, you realize like, oh wow, this must be a good movie because as I read the cast, it's like, wait a minute, Neckbone's uncle is Michael Shannon, as he just
Yep.
he rocks up suddenly coming out the double wide, and then Matthew McConaughey's sort of this girl that he's been talking about, Juniper, turns up. It's Reese Witherspoon. You're like,
Witherspoon.
wait a minute, what's going on here? His mom is Sarah Paulson. You're like, hang on, I'm barely keeping up here. Paul Sparks, I recognize that guy. He was from House of Cards. He's got this
Yeah,
Joe
right.
Don Baker. Sam Shepard is the guy living across the river. And I'm like,
Yeah.
what
So
the
good.
hell?
Yeah, but
Like-
still like all such understated performances. Like nothing's over the top. Everyone is just kind of electrifying, and you're like I said, like a Taylor Sheridan script. You're kind of glued to this, and you're just like, oh my god, where is this? All of these things are unraveling. Where is this going to go? What's going to happen? Like what's going to happen? And is this all going to come to a head? And you're along for the ride on this, and it's very much like a Tom Sawyer Huck Finn type of tale. It's because it's these two young boys.
I think that momentum that we're talking about, it's just coming from, because I can see this movie sucking. I mean, like, you know, the
It could have been
version-
it could have been a peanut butter falcon scenario.
or it could have been like and I love this movie because we did it on the show, but Homefront. You know what I mean? It's like you easily could have home-fronted this movie and turned it into an action movie with Jason Statham.
My name's Mud.
Yeah.
Never mind. I might be into this movie. Like,
Hang on.
Wait
a minute.
hold on, this sounds awesome.
Wait, he's keeping bees on a small island in Arkansas.
I'm the boat captain.
Yeah.
I was just saying, he's like, I'm the home fronter. I love that there's that bit in every one of those movies where they have to say the thing that they are. He's like, I'm the beekeeper, I'm the bricklayer, I'm the baker, like I'm the plane, whatever. All there.
I'm the Chick-fil-A corporate chef. That's gonna be the next movie. It's a little wordy, but you know, we're running out of jobs.
I'm the chick sexer.
Yeah.
Hell yeah.
So essentially it's kind of like you are along for the ride with these kids. You know, we're very much sort of we're propelled through the story by Ty Sheridan, who's, you understand why like they made Ty Sheridan a thing after this movie. It's kind of like the same with Hailee Steinfeld in True Grit. There's these young actors just going, oh, by the way, I'm very
We need to, their whole ethos must be like, we need to find the perfect kid that's inevitably going to get bitten by a snake.
Because we definitely get Chekhov's snakes.
Yeah. In both movies, I think, right?
Yeah. There's
That's funny. I didn't think about that until just now.
And then we do get the whole like snakes won't cross braided rope thing that turns up in a couple of these movies. That clearly snakes are a thing in Arkansas.
Snakes, Minari too. No snake biting, but snakes.
Yeah.
That's right. There is snake. This is
Well, fuck me. There we go.
Welcome to the United Snakes of a Slithercast. Rattlesnake edition.
There we go.
Snakes of a Slithercast. That's a good one. Well done, sir. You get a point. There you go.
And Ollie, you were just at a rattlesnake
I've been there.
event.
This is Texas, man. You can do the rattlesnake roundups that people do. I tell you, not good eating. Definitely.
Yeah, I've never seen you look more miserable than eating a rattlesnake piece. And even you were cutting to the people's reaction. They did not look thrilled to do it.
No, this is definitely one of those things you're like, well, this is something I'm eating to not die. But I wish I was dead.
But then you were like rock hard for 4 straight days.
Yeah, 100%. So yeah. Which is why we're talking about this on the podcast. The plot of Mud is fundamentally that we're unsure about Matthew McConaughey. Mud is a guy that he has 2 things that he needs. One is a shirt to protect him from danger, which has got like an eye sort of like sewn into it, and he's got a pistol. He's living on this island off, whatever he can find. He's doing a bit of fishing, but these boys just sort of, they start bringing him stuff. And essentially they work out a couple of things. One, that he's waiting for somebody, the most beautiful lady he ever been seen. She's blonde and long legs and just so pretty. And then they figure it out that's Reese Witherspoon, because when she turns up into town, oh, it's definitely her.
She's got the tattoo on her hand.
Right. And she had, the good luck tattoo.
And also no one's ever seen this person before. So there's that.
Right. But then also it's kind of like that he's hiding because it turns out that he killed. And that's a few in these movies as well. People say killed. They say killed. I killed a man down in Texas that was messing with Juniper. That would be Reese Witherspoon. So now he's kind of on the run, but the guy he killed has, it's Texas, so he's got a bunch of family who also like to kill.
Mhm.
And that'd be, Paul Sparks, Joe Don Baker, things like that. So he's sort of hiding out. He wants to run away with Reese Witherspoon, and then he's got this boat. And essentially, he works out a trade with these boys. He's like, all right, kids, if you help me get this stuff so I can get this boat, like, seaworthy, I will give you my pistol. That is essentially the
Pretty
plot
much,
of the
yeah.
movie. And then the boys go off, and they're like, they just go off, and they are really, I tell you what, I want kids like this. Because if you ask 14-year-old me to get a bunch of stuff to fix up a boat, I would have been
They're
like,
very resourceful. Yeah.
very.
Mhm.
I have to imagine they're also like towards the end they could convince Matthew McConaughey to also throw in like the porno mags, be like, listen, we do a little extra run around. Why don't you
Yeah, negotiate a better deal.
sweeten the pot a little bit.
Because as 14-year-old boys, they are very titty obsessed. It's always like, they bring up tits every now and again. It's great that where he kissed that girl, and like neck bone is like the next thing. So did she let you touch her titty? He goes, a little bit. He goes, nice.
Yeah.
As opposed to how we talk nowadays as grown men, where I actually
Yeah.
say pretty much the same exact
Yeah,
thing.
it's almost identical. Yeah.
No difference whatsoever.
It's usually by accident though.
Whoops, trip.
Yeah.
crap,
How
crashed
he
up again.
lands this, because he's 14 and she's presumed to be, because the guy he punches, she says he's a senior.
Yeah.
That's so I'm
18-year-old kid.
right. So she must be
17, 18.
Yeah. No way. No.
Yeah.
There's no way he's gonna pull
Well,
this.
the only
Crazy.
unrealistic
It's
part of
crazy.
this movie was that a 14-year-old kid runs across the road and decks an 18-year-old in his face, and that the 18-year-old and his friends didn't beat the ever-living shit out of that 14-year-old.
Right.
Yeah.
Well, he does hang out with like a crazy drifter with a gun, so maybe they're like, all right, let's not make this guy mad.
Yeah. Plus,
They
I
could have
guess-
easily done in this movie too, where Matthew McConaughey's character Mud is like a manifestation of like another form of his personality too. Like this movie, you keep thinking like, oh, if you've never seen it, could go so many different ways. So you're constantly like on your toes as what's real, what's not, where is this all going, and you're along for the ride. It's
and you whatever you think it's going, it's not going.
No.
And I don't mean that like it's not trying to trick you or anything like that. It's just that it's a movie, it's a type of movie genre I like. And I realized that when I was near the end of the movie is any other person would tell this movie from Mud's perspective and Reese Witherspoon's perspective, and it would give us all the information. And then we'd be following the hitmen coming from Texas, and all the pieces would be fed to us. Instead, we are watching a movie happen around us from the perspective of a 14-year-old kid.
Yeah.
So
So true.
when I was watching that, I was like, "Oh, this is a movie I want to make."
Such a great way to do it too. Like
you write a script and then you go, "All right, this character, he's going to be the one," and so you only see the bits that he sees, which is why you're slowly putting together all the pieces.
Right.
And once it gets to the end, you're like, "Okay," and then even then, there's some pieces missing, and then you get that epilogue moment of, "Here's your final piece."
Yeah.
Kind of
It's
thing.
like it's like watching The Beekeeper, but through the perspective of the bees, is what you're saying.
Exactly.
There was some real
I mean,
buzz for that movie.
I mean, I think the casting of McConaughey is genius for a few reasons. And I think part of it is, I think because we're seeing it from Ty Sheridan's point of view, is that Mud is kind of an idealized, like if you're a 14-year-old kid, he's like the coolest guy you've ever seen. Whereas if you do this movie from an adult's POV, you're like, that's a
guy
dirty,
sucks.
crazy man living in
Yeah.
in a boat.
Yeah.
Like stay away from that guy. I think the genius of casting McConaughey and having it be from a kid's point of view is it's only from that point of view where you're like, this guy is so cool. Yeah, I definitely want to help him build
He
his
lives on
boat.
a
I definitely
boat in
want
a
his gun.
tree. He's got a gun and porn mags. This guy's living the dream.
This guy
Hello.
Yeah.
but when I do it, it's so funny you say that. I was thinking like, there's no one else you could almost cast in this role. It was like meant for Matthew McConaughey. Like
I did see who almost got cast.
Woody Harrelson.
Yeah. No, actually, now you see that shit that would work.
Bill Cosby.
No, but I could have seen this movie working with this actor.
Jared from Subway.
They dodged a bullet there.
14-year-old boys come up to my little boat. No, it is let's play with my beanie weenies. No, we're going back. Chris Pine.
Yeah, I could see again, like very Taylor
okay.
Sheridan adjacent, like that.
Because of Hell or High Water and stuff like that. And he's got that same kind of enigmatic kind of like, and kids would think, oh, this cool kid. So I totally could have seen that working with Chris Pine, but I think Matthew McConaughey's just got that.
Yeah,
You know, when he's gonna tell, and he does, and he starts telling stories, and he's like,
it's just in fact you're just
and he starts
along
doing
for the
it with
ride.
that, like
The
talking
fucked
out
up
the
teeth.
side of his mouth kind of thing, and it
And
just
did they like? Was he wearing like a fake, like a prosthetic?
Oh, I was
tooth
interested
thing?
about. Do you
Why was he
reckon
wearing
like
that?
that's his actual cracked tooth, and they just took the crown off, kind of thing, the same as they did with Jim Carrey?
Jim Carrey? Yeah, I don't know.
Because they did that little thing where he's got that busted up tooth.
Yeah, they must have they dirtied him up. They messed up his hair. They made him all greasy. They're like, well, still too hot. We got to fuck up his teeth.
I know. It's like, and then you're like, nah, we're still fine.
Yeah.
He's like,
the smoking cigarettes. I'm watching this after because I just recently rewatched True Detective season 1 again. I'm like, his mannerisms and just the way he carries himself and tells the story and has these monologues. You're glued to him, every word.
Yeah, I just think it's a bit of that Texas swagger as well. I mean, he's just got a little bit like that enigmatic.
Well, what's your excuse?
Hey, man. Hey, as people will see in a video coming in a couple of days. But I just said yesterday, it's March 3rd today. So yesterday was March 2nd, which is Texas Independence Day. So I went down to Huntsville, Texas, and I got baptized as a Texan at the grave of Sam Houston. So now I've got an official certificate that I'm
They just dip you in barbecue sauce or what?
Yeah.
What's the protocol there?
Yeah, dipped in barbecue sauce. They handed me a pistol, and then I just had to go and break that horse over in the background. And so
shit.
Yeah,
They give you a Bowie knife. Yeah.
Hell yeah.
Full on Texan now, baby. Now I got that swagger.
Ugh, you eat one fucking rattlesnake. And...
But okay, so much like you guys are talking about, so we're all in now on Mud's story, whoever this guy is. Then we find out what interesting is about Ty Sheridan's character is that he kind of reminded me of me as a teenager. He believes in love. He believes that he sees a woman in trouble, he helps a woman. So he helps this girl, then she's like smitten with him and gives him a kiss, and he's like, "You're my girlfriend now," but like, no, you're not. And then like Mud's in love with Juniper, and so he's like, I gotta get these together so we can run away and they can be happy. And then he gets so upset with Juniper because the more that we learn about Reese Witherspoon's character, we find that Mud's just in love with her, but she's also not great for him. Like Sam Shepard and Mud, they know each other from back in the day, and then we get a little glimpse of like Mud goes, "Oh, he's an assassin." And when we get to see inside Sam Shepard's apartment or his boathouse, we get little pictures and we see, all right, he was in the services. He did something in Cuba.
He was a sniper, right?
Yeah, that's when we find out he was just he's a sniper. Chekhov's sniper, it turns out. Wasn't expecting that. Happy that showed up. But is that Ty Sheridan's entire sort of motivation is he's very much about love, and then. So then at the same time, we're also noticing that his mum and dad are we're having relationship problems at home. He wants to fall in love as a teenager, and then he wants to save this guy Mud's relationship and help them run away and be happy. His whole motivation seems to be kind of driven by like he's upset about his mum and dad breaking up. What do you guys think?
Yeah, and his buddy is just like, I want that pistol.
Right?
Yeah.
His name is Neckbone.
Neckbone. Yeah, I know.
Yeah,
his name's Nick, but he goes by Neckbone. Is that right?
He's just Neckbone.
So he was calling him Neck, like
calling him Neck.
I was just curious. I was like, Matthew McConaughey, the first time he meets him, he goes, "Cool name."
Yeah, it's a cool name, man. Cool. But like, and he's interesting enough is that he's a very much kind of like hillbilly character, but we find very smart. Like he built his own dirt bike.
Yeah,
and
it presumed he also built his uncle's diving suit, which is just a barrel. That was hilarious to me. His uncle, which we need to talk about, played by Michael Shannon, is his whole job is hauling things out of the river, treasures, so to speak, to then either retrofit them, sell them, whatever. But he's got this like archaic diving suit. It's basically an oil barrel with a tube coming out of the top of it. and it's he goes, "This ceiling fan here, perfectly good. Found it out of the river, cleaned it up. Best fan I ever had in my life."
Great. Yeah, because Neckbone's parents have never been around, so he lives with his uncle. And
they died. No, I thought there was a line in that where they had perished, and then his uncle was raising him. Maybe I'm misremembering that. Maybe they died when he was super young, or they went off. I can't really remember. It's not important.
It's not.
Yeah.
And then, but yeah, you get that. So Michael Shannon, this is I think this is one of the bits about this movie I didn't like. is there's not enough Michael Shannon.
No, I agree.
There's only a couple of minutes of Michael Shannon.
But the bits you do get of him, he's just wearing a full wetsuit. So
yeah. Well, there's the beginning bit where like that's this. Oh, they're sitting outside because that's his shagging music. Oh, he's shagging right now. And then like, but he's just like a good uncle. He's kind of like I said. I wanted more Michael Shannon.
But still, you get that scene too where he's out on the river with like his partner, and it again, you just don't know. It seems like, because at this point it's established like there's men looking for Matthew McConaughey's character, and he's out on the river.
There's police roadblocks, his pictures around.
Yeah, like you're starting to wonder, like, is he an unreliable narrator? Like, is he spinning yarn to these kids to do something horrible, or is he not telling the truth? Because you just don't know.
Yeah.
And you get that bit where Michael Shannon sees the boys going onto the island, and they see him, and you're just like, oh no, what is he gonna? Is he going to tell on them? Like, what's going to happen here? Michael Shannon, no.
Yeah. And it's more just like the next scene he goes, hey man, you need to talk about anything? I know I'm not your parents, but I am your uncle.
It's so sweet.
Yeah, exactly. Because I was expecting that this was going to be like, oh, Shannon's going to get involved. There's going to be a fight on the island. I was like, no, it's very much just like it's slow drip, drip, drip. And so the boys are slowly kind of like I said, very resourcefully going out, and they're finding all this stuff, this metal siding, all these ropes and these pulleys. So
I'm putting together a boat.
I'm putting together a boat team. And it just, that's how the movie kind of progresses for a while of just like, all right, they're finding the stuff that they need. And then, then the twists, well, not it just that the stakes get risen when they go to sort of see Juniper. They're trying to find her in a motel, and they find her having the absolute living shit kicked out of her by Paul Sparks. Gun gets pulled, kind of things like Ty Sheridan gets beaten, and this is kind of where the stakes start rising. Yeah, is that we sort of realize that okay, there are the forces from Texas that have that are related to the person that we know that Mudd has killed in Texas, are now looking for him, and there's more of them in town. Now they're watching Juniper, and then it's like, and so that's when you're like, okay, the danger is rising now. And it's kind of, but it's never like, it's never overwhelming pressure, isn't it? It's always kind of, I always feel like that we are the sort of the frog in the boiling pot. The water's just, it's only towards the end when I went, holy shit, like, there's the last 10 minutes of the movie is just, whoa. Is that the tension and the pressure has been increasing so slowly in the background that we almost haven't noticed because we're kind of like, oh, we're getting the boat fixed up.
It was reminding me of the Viggo Mortenstein, David Cronenberg movie.
History of Violence.
History of Violence. I can never remember the title. That one, History of Violence. But like, because it's a similar thing. Like, the mob is coming. He did something horrible, but he has no idea that it's coming. And then it kind of balloons into this. It crescendos into this like insane, action sequence. God, I gotta watch that movie again.
Yeah, as soon as you said it, I was like, "You're so right. That is exactly how that movie goes down."
Yeah, it's small town. Like, you just don't know who to believe, and then he does that turn where he's like, "It's me, Jimmy." That was
I only seen that movie recently.
It's so good.
Very recently, within the last year, is the
first
time I saw it.
It's a graphic novel, I believe.
Yeah. Oh, and it's graphic.
Yeah.
Ed Harris. Yeah, it's that's a good movie.
I mean, so the way it sort of keeps developing is that a bit of a problem happens that when they need the big problem they need for this boat is it's missing an engine. And so while the kids have been really good about scrapping and just stealing and just finding shit that nobody really wants or needs, when they go and they steal an engine from a junkyard, that's when suddenly it kind of like it causes a bit of a problem. This is where now his dad sort of realizes, you've stolen this, I've raised a thief. What's going on? Who are you doing this? Why are you doing this? And it creates all this tension in the family because they realize that if mom and dad break up, then they're going to lose the houseboat that they live on, and that Ty is very much, no, I like being river folk.
Yeah, because his mom's moving into the city, correct?
Yeah, I don't want to be a townie. And it's so it's kind of got all of this. There's so many little threads that are going on the entire time. Like I said, it's not a very conventional ABC kind of movie.
No, a lot of depth in all of these characters. Yeah, all of them.
Yes, every single one of them, and it kind of it sort of there's that bit, that realization of the boys, like when they go to try and find Juniper to sort of like to bring her to the island, she's not there. And then they go down to the motel guy and he goes, oh, she's at this bar. You know, and I love Arkansas that they've got a 9 a.m. bar that everyone's
Yeah.
pissed
That
off.
allows children into, no
Yeah,
questions asked.
For 10 minutes.
Yeah.
But that's where sort of Ty sees that she's all right. She's kind of flirting with some other boy. And it kind of like fits in with what we've heard. All these little bits about Juniper is that she loves and cares for Mud, but I think she loves that Mud cares for her so much.
Yeah.
That she keeps getting herself in situations that then Mud has to kind of fix for her.
She's trying to like get a reaction out of him to.
Yeah. She's a walking red flag, basically.
Yeah.
But
so hot.
You know, interesting enough, actually, while making the movie, she actually was involved in an accident. So all her bruises and cuts are real.
Oh, wow.
And they just work that into the movie as kind of like a plot point. Like, oh, you're all kind of fucked up right now. They'll work for the movies. We'll go with that. But yeah, it's almost in a way that Ty and Mud, so Ty Sheridan's character, I keep calling him Ty, but Ellis is his character. So Ellis and Mud are very similar.
Yeah.
You know, you know, Mud is very much a grown-up version of Ellis in a way. He also is quite romantic. He does want to, you know, just live on the water. He looks at ways the same thing that I think Ellis does as well.
It's crazy that Ellis grows up to then move to LA to work at Nakatomi Plaza and does just a bunch of cocaine. It's the same. A lot of people don't know this is the prequel to Die Hard starring Ellis.
100%. Actually,
Look
the
that up.
timeline works out.
Yeah.
It's a true story. That's where they got the idea.
Neck bone, booby.
So it's all kind of going according to plan. They've got a bunch of stuff to the boat. I'm very impressed by how Matthew McConaughey gets that boat out of the tree.
I was wondering how that
I was like, well played.
Great montage of them going around town and stealing all this stuff. And
we got a montage. But then the bit that sort of twists it up a bit is that Chekhov's snake comes into play. That we've seen it so many times. They're going over this log and there's this pool full of snakes, and Ellis snips. They're having he's thrown and he's angry and he's reacting to this whole Juniper thing, and he slips and falls into a pile of snakes. And that's when that's a pretty cool scene with Mud, is that he just immediately gets him in the boat. He's got a pen. He's noting how far the swelling's gone with time,
that was cool.
Things like that. They gets him on the bike, and I tell you, Matthew McConaughey is reckless on a motorbike. He gets that kid on a bike and he takes off at top speed, and when he pulls up to the hospital, you know, it's
that's the whole thing too. He's wrestling. He's got to get there to save this boy, but he knows the second he goes there, he's going to be outed and ousted, and just people. He knows everyone's looking for him at this point, and they all have his photo. And you know, he drops the kid off, and the orderly is like, "Hey, what's your name? You got to sign in, this and that." And it's you're just like, "Oh no, this is his undoing," you know?
Yeah, and that's when you get that sort of sense of foreboding that's kind of building up. And so while Ellis is kind of he's getting better, and then suddenly he's at home with his parents, and Mud's got the boat working with Neckbone, and you're kind of all right, he's got his boat, he can go off, but he comes by, he sort of sneaks in the window, he does his little whistle, so that's where you can always know when Mud is turning up in a scene. He's got this kind of, little
fucked up tooth. Yeah.
Yeah, there you go. And so he sort of comes through the window to say goodbye. And you're wondering, okay, if this is the end.
Which, again, huge red flag.
Yeah, right, yeah. Well, it's the 80s. And then the red flag gets even worse, because then suddenly they up the stakes suddenly, where we cut outside and we see all of Joe Don Baker's men. So basically, it's there's the kid, there's the son, Paul Sparks, all these other dudes, these people that are being paid, they're tooled up to their eyebrows, and they're approaching the houseboat. And I remember going, "Oh shit!" And it just kicks off this massive gunfight. But then again, we've got Chekhov's sniper who lives across the river, Sam Shepard. And I'm like, "Oh shit!" And we get this awesome sort of 10-minute gritty shootout where
really cool.
It's so many moments where you're worried, and you're worried for the mom and dad, and you're worried for Ellis, and you're worried for Mud, and it all kind of builds up to this last moment where Paul Sparks, I think, has got the drop on him, and Mud sort of jumps into the river, a shot is fired. We see he gets hit. He falls into the river. The last shot's taken, and then it's kind of like the movie goes, okay, so
Yeah.
are we ending now? You wait, like what's
Yeah.
happening? And it's one of those movies that like, what are they going to do? Are they going to dodgeball it? Are they going to cut the credits? You know, who's alive, who's dead?
Yeah.
And it slowly, it just slows the movie right back down for the last sort of like 5-8 minutes, doesn't it? Where you're like,
Mhm.
who's still there? Who's alive? What's going on?
Yeah, because the choreography, it's like it's tough to follow. It's very chaotic and it's very shot, very dark, and you don't really know who's getting hit and what's happening. It's not like obviously choreographed. It's you're meant to be like, as with everything else in this movie, you're meant not to know what's going on.
Yeah, it's a lot of loud noises and
Yeah.
just things. But again, you're just waiting for it all to go wrong.
Yeah.
And then it kind of does. And so then Mud goes into the water, then we never see him again. As like for like and then I mean this is the thing. So then the sort of the movie kind of plays out a little bit. And then we get that interesting shot. And I'm glad you brought it up early, but it's the Michael Shannon diving. So he's down there and we've had this bit where he's added a light. And
Yes. Such a
and we
great scene.
he looks up and we see this moment, sort of a shape of a body, but we see that shirt, Mud's shirt, and we see this body drift past. And then you're like, did I see it? Did I not see it? And you're left questioning, like all of this. It gives you this little thing, and you're constantly waiting for this movie to just again cut away and go to credits. We get
And
that.
you're wondering, was Michael Shannon down there this whole fucking time? Just like, oh shit,
Yeah, not coming back up.
new fan,
But then we get like another fan.
free shirt.
We do get this little sort of epilogue of we see the riverboat being repossessed. We see him moving into the suburbs. There's just kids riding bikes around. 3 teenage girls look at sort of like Ty Sheridan like, yeah, that's my jam. And you think, all right, here we go, credits. And then it gives us this last little scene where you've got Sam Shepard on the boat. He's heading out. You're like, okay, this makes sense. So Sam took the boat. He's killed a bunch of people. He's out on the run. And then like, he goes, hey man, come up and see this. And we find out, wait a minute, Mud fucking made it. And then I was like, I love this movie. This movie's great. Like I could have completely been a dick about things.
And the end title card said, Mud will return. And much like a James Bond film.
Yeah. In Mud too.
Yeah. But did you guys, I mean, when you first watched the movie, where did you think it was going? Because I was like, I thought, oh, okay, Mud died. All right, fine. Like, but that's the way it's got to go. Were you seeing that kind of ending that it went down the way it went down?
No, I think it pretty much went down. I not that it was telegraphed, but it felt like the right ending for it. I mean, I don't know. Would it have served the story anymore had he died? Like, I don't think it really would have mattered. So there's no there was no stakes tied to it. Like, I don't know, because at the end of the day, he's not a good person.
It's not bad,
right?
But you're right. He's just pretty neutral. So I'm like, I guess they could have him die. Him and Sam Shepard just go to another town. They mud it up all over again. They find 2 new boys, and they're like, we got to build a helicopter now. I don't know.
Yeah, I think first time I saw it, I was afraid that it's going to be one of these movies that didn't want to do like either to end on a happy note or have like an ending that made you be like, oh, that's great. I kind of, there's a lot of movies I've seen that are of the same genre where it either ends in an unexpected place on a down note, or like kind of depressing, like this kid was a fool for believing in love this whole time, and so I was afraid it was going to go that route, because it's like I've seen movies from directors who are similar to this that are like, yeah, but the real world doesn't have an happy ending, so our movie's gonna have a sad or depressing ending. Right. I was afraid it was going to do that.
Yeah,
and as I've learned from Jeff Nichols' movies, he's not about that. Like he's very much, he tells kind of like, I would call them like grounded fairy tales in a way.
That's great.
They're realistic. There's nothing like otherworldly about them, but there's just enough there to make you feel
I mean,
This is a little bit of a tale he's telling.
Feels like
Midnight
that.
Special does involve interdimensional beings and the parallel.
Well, sure, like he's sci-fi, but it's also, but it is like still very grounded. It's not
Very
like-
much so. I'm with you, but I was like,
yeah.
last
hang on.
15 minutes of shit gets fucking crazy in Midnight Special.
Sure. There is that. I'm kind of more talking like tonally.
No, but
Not
you're right.
really.
Up until that last 15 minutes, it is kind of it's a very. It felt like a Spielbergian ET-esque kind of like movie.
Yeah.
Midnight
Yeah.
Special is a movie that I bought on pure reputation alone. I remember watching it with friend of the pod, Adam, and like that's a movie that in the first 5 minutes had me completely hooked.
So
I'm
you're
like,
saying
what's
if
going on?
had this movie been, because you just that Spielberg thing threw me, I'm like, oh my God, it really is just like that. If this was like the same exact plot, these two boys go to this island to find this boat, but they stumble upon an alien who has to rebuild his ship, and they go into town, and also that alien is fucking Reese Witherspoon. Sure, you know, and they're like, yeah, okay, I can see that. I'm into
Yeah,
She's
that.
going back to her planet of hot women, and the kids are like, I want to go with you. Yeah.
To be quite honest,
This ain't for you, Alice.
that does
He
actually
takes
make
Neckbone
sense.
because that kid's fucking rad as hell.
He
Yeah.
is. Neckbone, yeah. So
Richard Dreyfuss, what are you doing here? Sorry.
So the reason Michael Shannon could only participate for a couple of days is because he was busy shooting Man of Steel at the same time. So he pops out.
Another alien movie.
There you go. But this was up until the time, I think, the largest production ever to shoot in Arkansas. At the time of shooting, half the crew were Arkansas residents. Production hired over 400 locals as extras.
Yeah.
And it was shot all around southeast Arkansas, Dumas, DeWitt, Lake Village, Crockett's Bluff, Stuttgart, Germany. And the island was outside the city of Eudora. So it's like, it's very, very Arkansas. It's a really enjoyable movie. It's interestingly timeless because like we pointed out,
Yeah, for sure.
I mean, it could be the early 2000s and people in Arkansas just don't have cell phones,
The whole time,
Right,
but
yeah.
the whole time too, I've never like with this movie in particular, I never once wondered like what time period is this supposed to take place, because it doesn't matter. Like
it
really
doesn't
like
matter at all. It
Right.
could be the 1950s, it could be the 70s.
it could be now. Like you'd think like, yeah, these people just don't have cell phones. It's like, shut up, nerd. You know.
I think the only thing that gives away the time period is finding porn in random places. I think
Yeah.
that's the only thing that signifies it's the past. I think if kids were to watch this today, it'd be like, what do you mean? You go out into the wilderness and find porn? And it's like, yeah, that's
Yes.
how we
you
all did
would.
it back in the day.
And I'm mystified as to the truth of this, but I've had and people joke about it. It's like it's on the side of railways. Yes, I've found porn on the side of railways.
Tree
And
trunks,
in the
hollowed out
middle-
tree trunks.
Yep.
the middle of a clearing in a forest or wooded area, bunch of porn, and I'm like, okay,
Or like a burnt out building hidden inside of a fireplace. I mean, sorry, I do a lot of geocaching where I don't find this stuff. I just
I
hide
was gonna
porno
say, this is
magazines
getting a little
everywhere.
specific. Yeah. I mean, I remember like we found like stacks of porno mags and a recycling bin just in our neighborhood. Like
Hell
just
yeah.
yeah.
So you go, and you guys recycled it. So there you go. It's
Exactly. So it was good for the environment.
It's and it's like it's
Positive
one of those
all around.
things. It's one of those things that the younger generations who can just go into a computer and type boobs, and they go, "Oh, boobs!" Like teenage boys in the 80s and earlier. Yeah, no, we had to wait for the magical porn fairy to bless us.
Yeah.
And we go, "Whoa, that's what
But it always
porn
happened.
looks
Yeah.
That's how you get pink eye.
like."
That's for sure. Yeah.
Though, yeah, this movie was like sponsored by Pink Eye. I think everyone would get infections from making this movie. It was, that's the one thing I'm like, I bet like Mud looks cool, but I bet he smelled terrible.
Oh God, it's got to be horrific.
Living
Yeah.
on an island in one shirt, one pair of jeans, and a pair of cowboy boots.
Yeah, that guy is ripe. Yeah. Ooh.
But yeah, so the movie does not end ambiguously. It gives us an ending, unlike the next movie that I want to talk about. Let's get into talking about 2020's Minari. Because we'll get to it, but I want to get to the end and get your perspectives on what you think happened at the
Oh
end.
man.
Because it has a very
If I just want to do stat, like a wellness check. If by the end of that film you weren't like audibly yelling at your TV while you were watching this, because I definitely did.
What were you yelling at your television? That's what I want.
Oh, I was like, Grandma, no, Grandma.
Yeah.
Oh, no, Grandma, no. Like it
Get the
elicited like
PT, pour it on the fire.
it elicited a physical reaction from me. As
Yeah.
none of these other movies did, but this one actually I was like, oh no.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh,
Because yes, we have struggled this whole movie to get some good news, and once we get all the good news, we get the bad news.
oh my God.
So
This
Yeah.
movie's a fucking gut punch too. Like, but again, not like only because it just had this like cloud over it because it's an A24 film. Like, you know, they really kind of think outside. Not all their movies are great. Some of them are pretty terrible. But it's got that when it's got that logo on there, you're just like, you know, it's going to be like off kilter a little bit. Something's going to be
right,
a little
it's like
different,
they
you
like
know?
to fund movies that other studios are scared to fund.
Yeah.
And it does. You're very right that when it does pay off for A24, it pays off hard. I was just watching the other day. I randomly put it on but I watched Upgrade again. Have you ever seen Upgrade?
Oh,
hell yeah.
I still
that's
need
not
to
an
watch
A24.
that. I
That's
bought
not an
that movie.
A24 movie though, right?
Is that not A24?
No, that might be Neon. I don't think it's an A24 movie.
Ooh, I'm gonna quickly look that one up.
It
I
seems
bought
like
that
it
on
would
Blu-ray
be.
from
Yeah.
I bought that on Blu-ray from your guys' recommendation.
Have
I
you
still
watched it
haven't
yet?
Not yet.
Oh my
I
God.
know.
Yeah.
I gotta that and Michael
Rotate it.
Clayton. I gotta watch.
What's
Are
that?
you crazy? You haven't watched it yet?
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, it's a
I know.
Blumhouse. Sorry, Upgrade
Blumhouse. Okay.
Blumhouse.
Yeah,
the other
that
side.
tracks. Yeah. But that's the thing. These, like, you know, A24's got this like very prestigious record now, is producing these out of the box kind of films. And like I said, not all of them are great, but then you have like a Janus Films, a Neon, like you have these smaller production houses that are even a Blumhouse to a lesser extent, which is more or less like strictly horror, I would say.
Yes,
But
you're
man,
right.
like,
It does lean. But let's very quickly, just a little bit of an aside. A24 movies. You know, of course, their most successful one being Everything Everywhere All at Once. I mean, they cleaned up at the Oscars. Ex Machina,
Yeah.
which is one of my all-time favorite science fiction movies ever made, ever in the history of ever.
The Lighthouse, Moonlight,
I've not seen that. She's
Midsummer.
Under the Skin, Midsummer. Like I said, I've not seen Uncut Gems. Enemy. Ooh, I haven't
Good
seen
one.
that yet.
Good Time, great one.
The Lighthouse, Lady Bird. I've heard great things about that. So yeah, I mean, they are getting out there and they are taking swings.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
I think, you know, Minari, if you know, let me pitch it to you, okay? All right, it's a movie set in the 1980s. It's a Korean family. It's 90% in Korean, and it's about them setting up a farm.
Yeah.
And
We've
then-
already seen Blue Bayou.
Exactly right.
Right. Yeah.
And funny enough, that was something that, like, before going into the movie, that's I think the first thing I
Yeah.
said. I was like, okay, this kind of has the same sort of look.
And I was
vibe.
thinking about that too. Like I had that movie in the back of my mind again, thinking like, oh no, I'm preparing myself for the worst, not
Yeah.
knowing when that's going to happen or if it's even going to happen.
Yeah, I mean, so I
Oh,
mean, yeah, Blue
I have
Bayou.
this unease watching this entire film, you know.
I think it's deliberate there. I think
Yeah. Oh, for sure.
You know, because it's like, so Blue Bayou, I remember it gave us the gut punch and then we fell on the floor and then it kicked us 3 more times in the gut while we're on the floor. And then it rolled the credits and they went, you think we're done gut punching you? Here's 12 more.
Shot us in the back of the head.
Yeah.
Whereas
Very much.
Minari has the similar undercurrent of mud in as much as we're, honestly, the movie is from everyone's perspective, but we know we've got this kind of like this kid, David. David's the little boy. He's got a heart murmur. He's very much, in a way, he's kind of who we're following the story, but his mom and dad are having problems. You know, so they've moved from California to Arkansas, where both Stephen Yun and his missus can work as a chick sexer. So basically, they have to look and see if it's a boy or a girl. If it's a boy, you put them in one pile. If it's a girl, you put it in the other. They kill all the boys, and the girls go on to become hens and lay eggs.
And it's established that his character is like
The best.
fastest, the best, the best
He's the
sexer in
best.
the West. Like,
Yeah.
Nothing's gonna ever
like
keep
no
me
one
down.
sexes chickens better than this guy.
He is
Like,
he is the
so much
legendary-
so that the other Korean woman working in that factory is like, I've heard about you. You know, like she's
Yeah,
like
there are
super-
legends told about
He's
Really
it.
even
horny.
introduced like by
Yeah.
the guy from Arkansas. Like he's from
Yeah.
California, and he's like he sexes chickens like nobody. Let's give him a big welcome. Yeah,
There's only 3 people in that room too. One of them is his wife.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And so it's kind of established that the reason they moved to Arkansas is because his wife is not as good at sexing chickens as he is, but
No.
she is fast enough for Arkansas, not fast enough for California.
No.
And so it's kind of like, again, it's never specifically, we don't see the conversation, but as a husband and wife, they have, his dream is to, he said, if we come here, then I get to make a garden. Essentially, he wants to start farming. He's got space to farm, and he wants to start growing Korean vegetables. And I remember, it's explained well with the boy asking him, like, Dad, why? And he goes, well, you get 30,000 Koreans immigrating to America every year, and they want their kimchi. They want you can't find these things in America, so who are we going to sell them to? He goes, Koreans. There you go. So he's, we see a bit where he gets a loan from a bank and he starts kind of, and, things are going to begin with. We're like, okay, I can see this guy. And like, when you get the water diviner come out with his ley lines sort of thing, and he's like, all right, fuck off, buddy. I'm like, I'm Korean. I'm going to use my brain and go and find water, which he does.
Yeah. And it's all going great until it's not.
Until it's not. But the thing is, it's like, but you can tell, and like I was saying at the very beginning, Han Ye-ri, who plays Monica, his wife, she does 95% of her acting with just
there's very, very little dialogue. Like,
that you can tell she's not happy. You can tell this isn't kind of what she's just not happy. And so, and you can pick up that undercurrent, and then Jacob's getting that undercurrent. So then we get this bit where he's like, all right, well, look, why don't we get your mother to come live with us from Korea?
Every husband's nightmare.
Yeah, well, I mean, but it's very like if it's very Asian culture is very much like that. That's very much what you do. That you live together as like as many generations.
And everything like leading up to that too is oddly terrifying. Like the fact that she's coming. When she does come, she gets the kids all dolled up, and she hasn't seen her mother in a long time.
She's never met boy.
She's never met her grandson. Like she's the wife is like very terrified of this interaction. Like what's going to happen? The fact that she has to be there to help out, and even I was like, oh my God, what is this going to like unfold for this family?
Well, I think a little bit was the daughter of being afraid of like losing face of her mum coming and seeing, and like we're living in this middle of a field in a and in a trailer that's got wheels, and I like that the grandma was like, what, it's got wheels, it's cool.
Yeah.
It's like
this grandma is badass. Like
she's cool.
Really
so
cool.
She turns up and she just adds that little bit of like flavor. One thing, in none of these movies do you ever see any child going to school, by the way. Anyway, no,
but they go to church.
That's
more important.
But yeah, so then it's when the grandmother turns up, and what happens is she is, you understand why she won the Oscar, but she adds this sort of like this little bit of chaos into the movie.
And she's kind of the only bit of comedy you get in this movie too. Like. And her discovery of Mountain Dew it's like they describe this. So it's like, it's this special mountain water.
Yeah.
Right.
And she's just like, the only thing keeping her alive.
I think I kind of think
and wrestling
Dew probably sponsored this movie.
Oh yeah.
That was really funny. Yeah. The Mountain Dew part, the kids.
Her drinking the Mountain Dew and watching the wrestling was special.
Her little comments. Oh, they're going to get
so relatable.
But then but also like her teaching the kids how to play this obscure card game, and she's teaching them to play badly so that she can win, so much so that later the little boy teaches his young friend how to play, and he's like, no, you want the bad cards. It's just like that was such a great like circle back to that joke.
And it's the way that she's the whole thing is that David, the young boy, is like, you're not a real grandma.
Yeah.
Like, what do you mean?
You can't do anything. You can't make cookies, right?
Yeah, you don't bake cookies. You make all this food I'm not sure about. You swear all the time. You play cards. It's like, and I'm not going, dude, your grandma's awesome.
Yeah.
We're like,
your grandma watches wrestling and drinks Mountain Dew. What more do you want?
But it's also, it's got this kind of, so the movie being called Minari, and you're kind of like, why? But as sort of like things have kind of got to this breaking point, then we bring in grandma, and grandma's now, watching the kids so that the mom and dad can go to sort of work. And we get, like I said, this little adventures that she goes on with David, because David is very much a coddled child because he has a heart murmur. He has a hole in his heart. And so you know, as the movie's beginning, he's constantly being told, "Don't run." He's constantly being told, "Look out, be careful." Now, Grandma turns up and she's bought all these like things from Korea, and it's like this, you know, they make this drink for him to have every day. But she takes him out. She's told Grandma about things of let's go walking, and she goes investigating. And it's like, Grandma, we shouldn't be going here. She's like, whatever, you know, I'm Grandma. You know, we go down. She finds this river, and that's where she's like, this is perfect to plant Minari. Minari being this sort of like thing that is, it has a lot of uses. It can be used in medicine. It can be used in food. It's very, very popular in sort of like Korea, but it grows like a weed when you put it in the right place. And so we've got this little thing, but it just, as slowly as time's going on, like she's like, no, come on, let's walk. No, run. Let's go over to this. It's just
Run to this tree. Yeah.
yeah, just giving him a little bit of confidence and treating him like you're not this little coddle boy. I'm gonna
Because this kid is constantly in fear of that too. Like he knows, like even I think there's a bit later on where after he does like after the infamous scene that we'll talk about where he's like running off, you know, he has that palpitation where he's like, you know, running away, and you're again like with the structure of this film, you're like, oh man, I'm setting myself up to know that something horrible is going to happen to
that
this
kid.
Yeah.
Is dead meat.
Yeah. Right. Yeah. That's what I was waiting for.
Also,
too.
I'm thinking of the ecological ramifications of just planting this weed in this area. Like, has nobody thought of that?
Well, even the dad is like, well, we'll talk about it later, and Grandma's like, what's there to talk about? Just plant it. Like it's meant to be planted. Let's just do it. Yeah.
And then
I don't care if there's snakes all over the place. Just plant it.
But yeah,
that's a great bit too.
Like, her line about no. It's always better to be able to see the snake. It's more dangerous when it's hiding. You know, let's keep an eye on it. So it's kind of like, I guess in a way that's her metaphor for like, let's not avoid the situation with your heart thing. Let's face it. Let's talk about it. Let's get there. And she goes out and she looks after him and she gives him a hug and she's like, come, you know, he's finally, you are a grandma, and gets in bed, sleeps together, like, you know, and then wakes up in the morning and she's had a stroke.
Well, this is after. Prior to that, they've had a very tenuous relationship, like you said.
Oh yeah,
and
I mean,
you know, because she's making him drink this like herbal. I assume it's like an herbal tea that he fucking hates. He's like, why can't? He's like, the Mountain Dew is right there. Like you've set me up. I'm drinking the Mountain Dew now. I'm addicted to it, and now I have to drink this fucking black tar to what? Because it's gonna make my heart better. And, spoiler alert, it does. But yeah, he like goes into the like he's watching wrestling with his grandmother, goes in the bathroom, like pours it down the toilet, pees into the cup, brings it back to her, and she just drinks. He's waiting for her to drink the piss, and he fucking that's when he runs out, and he's like, she's screaming at him, he's running away, and then he has that heart palpitation. You're just like, oh no, you're gonna die on that prank.
Which is funny, but is it worth your life? You know?
But that's the kind of inciting incident that sparks that relationship change between them, you know, which I think is like
they get a look. Like she very much is like, she's like, no, that's funny, you know. And like she kind of fights his corner when he's getting disciplined. Like the bit where, you know, Steven Yeun's like, go and get a stick, you know, the classic, go and get a switch. And so he goes outside. You see him testing out sticks, and then he comes inside with just this, you know, it's like a piece of grass. And Grandma's like, you win this time.
But even later, I think, because the family, like again, because she's, you know, she's the sole person taking care of them. The parents are out. The daughter is like, we're supposed to go to church, and he, I think, purposefully pulls the drawer out and drops it on his foot to get out of this thing. And then she's, you know, she's taking care of him and she heals him up. And then he goes, hey, Grandma, how does pee taste? And he just fucking runs away again. But she's into it. Like they have this, like, again, I want the adventures of Grandma and David. Give me that.
It is.
Yeah.
So cute. Until you get the following scene that you're
right. You know, so Grandma suffers a stroke. And so that's not great. And through all of it, it's like he's having a problem because the well dries up. So then he's having to take water from the county, but then they can't afford to pay for the water. So again, Will Patton's been helping him out on the farm. And he's kind of like this interesting religious guy that every Sunday he just walks with a
crucifix
across, and he's like, you know,
he looks like a guy who would go to like one of those snake churches where you're just like, hey, waving the snakes around.
But like
he looks like, I'm not saying he does that, but he looks like it. Yeah, he is. And even Steven Yeun's character, his name is Jacob, excuse me. He just like he's like keeps touching him. He's like, oh, can I pray for you? And Jacob's like, just fucking come on, man. Just we got a lot of work to do, you know.
Yeah.
But this whole thing with the grandmother having a stroke in the middle of the night, because you get the character development that David wets the bed, right?
Yeah.
Throughout the thing, and then the next morning he's sleeping with his grandmother. He wakes up and sure enough, the bed is wet, but it's like he's dry. It's not him. And you look over and you're like, oh no,
Ding dong, broken
Yeah.
ding dong.
yeah.
It's not a penis, it's a ding dong.
That bit at the church was great.
Yeah.
Oh my god,
Yeah.
so funny. What's wrong with your face? Why's your face all flat? And he's like, it's not. He's like, all right, we can be friends.
Yeah.
You're cool.
Or the little girl is like, is this a phrase that you know? And then like says like the most racist like Asian
Oh,
approximations
yeah.
It
ever.
says random words.
Yeah.
Stop me if you know one of these.
Yeah.
Oh, that
and
means
then eventually she's like, oh, that one is a word actually. Oh.
we can be friends too.
Yeah.
So that was one thing that I kept sort of waiting to happen, and it never did. There was never anyone there was no racism. You know what I mean?
Right. No, like honest.
Not directly.
Like,
yeah.
yeah.
but it's
not
even
intentional.
when David stays with like his friend and you meet like the dad the next day, the dad is not like, what are you people? He's just like, oh, how's it like living out here? Don't tell your mom that I was cheating last night.
It's like, hey, your mom asked I was here all night.
Yeah. You get the dad's a little bit of a scumbag, but at least not.
But even in that scene too, like you have this sense of there's just this sense of dread over everything. Like he's gonna grandmother has a stroke, the mother's with her at the hospital, Jacob's working, and the boys the sister's like, hey, we can go stay at our friend's house tonight because she's taking care of grandma. And you just know like, oh, he's gonna go to this kid's house, and this kid doesn't know that he has a heart murmur. I'm like, something's gonna happen. It's like if you have a kid that has an allergy and you send or like an egg allergy or something, and you send them off, like they're not aware of that, and you're just like, oh no, something's gonna happen with his heart.
Right.
His heart's gonna fucking explode. Is what's gonna happen. I'm just waiting for that.
You are, and it doesn't.
No.
It just kind of goes down. But like but for me, it's also got that the relationship is just slowly just not.
Yeah.
It's just the pressure of it, and it's like they moved to Arkansas to try and fix it. And it's not going, and the farm's struggling, and then he was going to sell to these Korean people in Dallas, and he's done it all. He's done the work. He's with Will Patton. They
made flyers. They made little flyers.
They've got the produce and everything, and then these guys go, "No, we're pulling out." And it's just like, again, oh, here's another kick to the teeth, and now grandma's had a stroke, and everything else is going wrong, and you're like, but it just keeps moving forward. It doesn't just like you never feel depressed. You never feel. It's kind of like what Ryan is saying. You're always just waiting.
It's unease,
to drop, but then we start getting some good news that grandma's on the mend a little bit, and then we go to the doctor, and we find out that the hole in David's heart is healing, and that and it's that kind of thing, because they had this conversation right before, and it's like, I think we should break up. I'm going to take the children back to California. Everything's got to change. And then they go in, the doctor's like, whatever you guys are doing, don't change a thing, because it's fixing your boy's heart.
I thought that was after, because he's, he finally found a Korean grocer to sell his produce to, and he's like fumbling. He's got to they have to drive like 5 hours, I think, into Dallas, right?
It's not, I think it's Dallas. It was one of the other cities.
Yeah. But he brings it into the hospital room, and his wife is just like, you care more about the produce than you do about what's going on here.
Well, that's the big thing happening in the movie, is that the wife is like, you care more about your farm than you do about the family. But he's like, I care about the family because the farm is what the family needs. And it's just, it's they're both moving in the same direction, but they're not communicating in the right way.
Yeah, he's trying to build like a legacy, something his children have to be proud of. He doesn't want to just return home or to California to sex chickens for the rest of his life. Like, he's got bigger dreams, and those dreams that he has to have this farm to support his family. She's not, again, you're right. It's a non-communicative thing. And if they would just fucking talk about it, man. But
Well, they do, and so once he gets a new client, he goes, "I'm going to sell these people veggies," and you're like, "Okay, great." And then she's like, "I think we should break
I'm
up."
out.
Yeah,
Yeah.
that's it. We're done, and it's like
God.
so emotional, and like you're
Yeah.
like, "Oh man, how's this going to work?" And then we get to the moment in the movie that has Ryan screaming at the television. What happened in the movie, Ryan?
So they're all on this, this journey. All of these things are happening. They're selling the produce. They go to the doctor and they're like, hey, we'll just leave grandma at home, even though she's just had a fucking stroke. And another thing that's been established is that they have to burn their trash, right?
Mhm.
It
They
happens
live
a
in the
couple of
middle of
times
nowhere.
yeah, because it happens a couple of times. So the grandma's out there and she goes to burn, and immediately you're like, oh no, what is she doing? Why is
Right.
she like, she's moving stuff around and she's in a lot of pain. She's had a stroke. She doesn't have mobility. So she goes to burn the trash. The thing catches fire, it falls over, and she's literally like incapable of moving. And I'm just screaming. I'm like, oh no, she's just gonna burn their whole fucking house down. The whole house is
Well,
gonna burn
it
down.
doesn't burn the house
No,
down.
it
It's
doesn't. But
much
I was prepared for that to happen.
It's
Right.
much worse.
Yeah.
She sets fire to the storage building that has all of the produce that that
He's supposed to
Stephen
sell. Yeah, that he
has
just
been.
sold. Yeah.
Yeah, and
Mhm.
so yeah, you're in this sort of like, oh no, guys, we just got all this kind of like good news, and now, but then bad news, and then you get that moment where they're driving up and they realize, you
She's like, I
smell
smell
that?
smoke. I smell that.
You
Yeah.
smell smoke? We shouldn't be smelling smoke right now. And that's kind of like, and again, I didn't know if there was an hour left in this movie or if there was 5 minutes left in this. I didn't realize how close to the end of the movie we actually were. But we get that sort of bit where Jacob and Monica, like Jacob goes in to try and sort of save the
So, yeah.
produce, but then it's where they both start work. They realize each other's point, as in she comes in and she helps him save all, some of this produce. They pull some of it out, at least, but then they're being overwhelmed by smoke. Then at this point, we're terrified that she's about to die, but then
Because he can't find her. Yeah.
right, but then he finds her and drags her out. And so, like, he's shown that I care about family. She's shown that I care about what you're doing. But everything is unspoken. None of this is ever spoken about.
Yeah.
Then they
And all the
sit
while,
there.
grandma's walking away. She's like, my work here is done.
Yeah, well, that's
Yeah.
the thing. You're right. And so then grandma but she's watching this like, I've destroyed everything. I've ruined everything. So she just starts sort of walking away and walking down this road, and you get this lovely little moment of David runs after her.
Yeah.
He they're chasing, like he just runs after her and he physically stops her.
I will say he's running for quite a while. Like, this woman is not very fast, so he could have caught up to her pretty quickly. I was thinking
He's got a heart issue, so he's running
he's
with
got teeny little legs. Yeah.
Yeah, tiny little legs.
He's like running at full speed, and the
short legs.
sister's just like walking at pace, just catching up to him.
Yeah.
But it was such as like, and I know I make a joke, but it was like such this beautiful thing. Like, she's walking away, and she's just like, she recognizes the horrors of what she's done, and she feels so bad for, being this overall burden. But the kids are like, no, grandma, the house is back this way, and they run up to her and they both take her hands and they go back and they throw her into the fire.
and everyone claps.
Yeah.
But
Dodge ball ending.
Perfect film.
We do get a kind of dodgeball ending, and this is one thing that I kind of want to get into, is that so after this sort of scene, they've got grandma. The last thing we really see of grandma is she's sitting there kind of just looking, and the family have, after all of this struggle and everything, they've all just fallen asleep in one big group on the floor.
Yeah.
And it was like that first night when they settled, he said, let's all sleep on the floor like a family kind of thing.
Mhm.
And so it's kind of showing that it's kind of, they're all brought together.
Yep.
And then the movie, we just get two more scenes. One is Jacob out there with Will Patton's character, and I think, but also a water diviner.
Mm-hmm.
So he's finally, all right, and the guy goes right here, and so we see him place this sort of like rock.
Do we know how that works functionally?
Don't what you really want to? If you apologize for Ernest, you can talk to my wife again.
I did. To our audience, I did.
You did.
I reached out and apologized to Zen for the sins I brought upon their family.
Yes, you did.
I wrote a strongly worded letter.
Mrs. is very much someone.
And his wife was like, "What the fuck are you talking about?" Locked.
But yeah, water divining that's a whole other conversation. But we see them put down this rock, which kind of signifies to us that they're staying on the farm. They're continuing with what they're doing, and then we get the final scene. Now, every time we've ever seen the Minari, we've seen Grandma taking David, but in this case, it's Jacob taking David to the Minari. And now the interesting thing about Minari, once you get into reading about it, is it only really grows once it dies first. It's the second year onwards. So its first generation has to kind of die off and then it comes back stronger. So in a way, it's of course the big metaphor for what's going on. My question to you, in your opinion, is Grandma alive at the end of the movie or is Grandma dead at the end of the movie? I have one opinion and it's deliberately left ambiguous. So it's just, there's no right or wrong answer. How did it play out for you?
I was wondering that too, because had there been any indication of a time jump, like because there really isn't, like it could be a month. Like, I mean, I don't know the timeline for when Minari grows. It could be like 2 years, like or a year.
Exactly.
I think the implication is that she is no longer with us, but because it makes the most sense to me for them to kind of all grow as a family together, that Grandma's got to go, man.
What do you think, Will?
What about that last shot where she's on the boat with McConaughey and Sam Shepard and they're sailing off?
The Kaiser Soze ending?
Yeah.
She's just dancing with the snakes in the background. She actually now lives with Will Patton, who saved her through the power of Christ.
There we go. That's the post credits. You guys didn't get to that?
Grandma will return in Minari 2.
Yeah.
Minaris with a dollar sign.
Oh man.
Yeah, I think in all seriousness, I think it's supposed to imply that she's since passed away.
Yeah.
But there's a lot with that grandma that I think is actually pretty interesting. Like from the fact that she kind of Mr. Magoo's her way into like fixing the family. She's like, kind of constantly like screwing up, but in ways that like kind of like makes everything better. And that last shot, I kind of want to return to that shot of like where she's walking away from the farm and the kids are chasing after her. I was just immediately struck by, I don't know if this is a deliberate reference or not. I don't know if the director has seen, there's a Kurosawa movie called Rhapsody in August, which is all about this older lady who her children and grandchildren are trying to find her great nephew or something, who's played by Richard Gere, and lives in America. And she survived like Hiroshima. Like she's like she was like one of the survivors of that. The rest of her family, except for a couple of her siblings, died. And there's a shot towards the end. There's a lot that goes on, but there's a shot towards the end where she's kind of like in a trance, like something. She's like relived part of her trauma, and she's just kind of out of it, and she's like walking away from. It's a very similar looking shot, and she's almost wearing the same thing. That's what struck me. Is it was another older lady. They're wearing very similar clothes, and she's walking away as the family is like racing to like chase after her and bring her back. And I was watching that scene in a Minari, and I'm just like, I don't know if this is supposed to be, if this is a deliberate reference to that or not. But it was very, very similar of like somebody whose time is like done, and they've something horrible has happened, and they're kind of walking away, and the family's chasing after them. It was interesting. It was just
there a little boy going, Shane!
Shane! It was the same kid, actually. But yeah, that's what struck me about that. There was actually a lot of imagery in the movie where I'm like, okay, this feels like this is a shorthand.
It's a striking film. Like it really is. Like it's again, it felt very like Terry Malick. I shouldn't say that because that's very handheld, but the shots in this are just really, really beautifully done. The music was incredible. It's just something else I'd clocked while it's something you either really notice if it's really good or really bad. And this was just fantastic.
Yeah. Well, see, for me, it's like, so that final scene, I don't know if you guys clocked it, but as we're kind of like, we're pushing in, there's him with his son, and they go to look at the Minari. Is that in the foreground, there's two sticks, like a cross.
Oh.
in the
there you go.
ground. So it's like but it's not like it's not.
Oh, it's not marking a grave.
It's not deliberately done to mark a grave, like as in you don't see it tied together. But I'm sitting there almost like, is this where they bury Grandma? So like it's the actress that plays her says, in my opinion, she's alive at the end. You know, but then
of course she's got to say that. She's got press to do.
She needs to do the sequel.
Yeah,
so
yeah, exactly. Yeah,
but yeah, that's what I thought was quite interesting about the movie, is that then it's like it gives us an ambiguous ending, but not ambiguous in as much. It's like it doesn't matter.
Yeah, and I
gives
think
you
you
that
can
sign
find
of they're staying on the farm, and it gives you that bit of Minari, and then like, you know, the Minari is growing and it's going well, and it's like, okay, you know, they're staying, they're going to continue. That's all. That's it. That's the wrap up. It's not.
I'm wondering now, is that just like the one thing they grow now because it grows like weeds, and everyone who eats it is like, this tastes like shit?
See, I was waiting for this thing about like the Minari being what saved them.
Yeah, like because you said it's got these healing properties, and I have to imagine that's, and maybe I'm wrong, the tea that she was making, was it made from that, or is that?
Yeah, and it's like, you know, and there's this whole other Asian medicine thing. There's it's a huge.
Was she a ghost the whole time? I don't know.
Yeah, right.
Right.
So that was like, you know, that's the interesting thing, is like, you know, Mud set up an ambiguous ending and then gave us an ending, whereas Minari set up an ending and kind of gave us an ambiguous one. It was like they played it opposite. But
I can't wait for them to team up in the sequel.
But Minari it's not an unsatisfying watch. It doesn't.
No.
You're not bothered by that ending, you know. But it was very much, but I was like, because when the credits rolled, I went, what?
Because I think I was texting you guys too, and I usually it goes either twofold. Either we're texting each other nonstop while one of us is watching these films. But this one, I was like, I didn't really. I said a few things, but it was more like, wow, I can't wait to actually discuss it with you guys. It was it really stuck with me. I was like,
you were very guarded with your comments. You were just
I don't want to sway you.
Yeah,
but it was just a beautiful film. Like, but it's not at all what you would expect. Very, like I said, a very slice of life. Yeah. Some would say, like, if you didn't like this film, some would say it's like, nothing happens. But I strongly disagree. You know.
Yeah. Well, it's not that nothing happens. It's just that life happens.
Yeah, exactly.
You know, and instead of like, it's kind of like we mentioned before, like these movies don't really follow a 3-act structure. You know, it's like it's very easy. Well, not very easy, but you know, when it comes to telling a story, there are however many, 7 types of story, and then you can do the 3 acts, and the end of Act 2, the Dark Night of the Soul, and it moves into this. Whereas these are very much things are happening, because life doesn't happen in 3 acts. You know, it doesn't. And I'd say that even when we get into True Grit, which we will in a minute, like, I don't think that even really has an act structure either. It's just, we're out. Things are happening. Guys, characters turn up randomly and then they just move on and we never see them again, you know?
Yeah, true.
Yeah, it's not the Joseph Campbell like hero's journey type act structure that everyone's familiar with, which I'm not that big a Joseph Campbell fan.
Nerd.
So, in my books about modern mythology,
if you listen to Dan Harmon, you know that.
So it's not that. I would argue that these do follow like an emotional 3-act structure. There are setups, there are payoffs. It's just not very like, it's not Spielbergian about it. You know, it's not, the stakes are not world ending. It's not like, if we don't do this, you know, then the White House will fall to terrorists. It's all
which is what happens in Minari too.
Right. Yeah. It's very familial. It's I always think of like the Before trilogy when I think of stuff like that. It's like the stakes are not super high, but when it's you and it's a family and it's like related to what's going on, it does feel
they're
like
very
important.
real stories. Like that's you know, none of this is really heightened. These are all very real things, and you feel a deeper connection to it, you know. And I think that the fact that we picked these 3 movies for this state, I think is a testament to how great Arkansas is. Well done.
Well, I also, you know, another aspect of, we mentioned Spielberg a couple of times so far in the episode, but it doesn't surprise me that we've mentioned it during Mud and Minari, which are both movies that involve kids being involved in a family breaking up, which is very famously what inspired Spielberg's every movie.
Until I guess True Grit can also be like that.
Well, that's what I was going to say. But like, yeah, let's move on. I mean, we'll get back to a little bit in Minari. I mean, for example, Minari. I mean, Stephen Yeun, he got nominated for Best Actor. I think it was one of the first Asian person.
And you did watch Beef, right? Is that what you said?
I haven't seen Beef yet.
Ooh,
I kind of like. I've been thinking about seeing if my daughter wants to watch it with me. So because it's like I've heard it's really good. It sounds like
yeah, no, it was good.
It sounds like the Ben Affleck Samuel L. Jackson movie. Is it Changing Lanes? Have you ever seen that?
Oh yeah.
That movie's great. I saw that on a plane once, knew nothing about it. It is, you want a tight 90 of just what a great movie. Ben Affleck, Samuel L. Jackson. It just involves two guys get into a fender bender and they just keep trying to get revenge on each other. And it just like, it's really,
I was thinking of,
really good.
What's the Keanu? Is it Chain Reactions? The Keanu Reeves one?
Yes, that is a very different movie.
Yeah.
About
I'm thinking of Phantoms, obviously.
Yeah, where he is the bomb.
He is the bomb in Phantoms, yo.
But yeah, like Minari just shot in 25 days. They were editing it as they went to make sure that they could meet a deadline to be at a film festival.
Yeah.
But it's one of those ones. I think. Correct me if I'm wrong. This was Plan B, right? So this was Brad Pitt's production company got.
Yeah, I noticed that. Yeah. Plan B. Mm-hmm.
It's a great movie. It's a great watch.
It is.
It's beautiful. It's cool. It's
but it's a movie you got to be in the mood for. You know,
yes,
I wouldn't.
That's what I was going to say. And it's like that's a great thing about this podcast is that irrelevant of your mood, you've got to watch this movie this week. You know, so we put them on.
Yeah.
Which is great.
But I went into this with absolutely no expectations, which I seldom do. Like I didn't look up anything. I read the plot, the synopsis, just to make sure it takes place in Arkansas is the only prerequisite. But I went into this completely blind, and I was just struck by it. You know, it stayed.
Yeah,
yeah.
I told you guys before we started recording, I was kind of not in the right headspace to watch this movie. So,
but and you watched it on the Apple Vision Pro.
Right.
Yeah, on the Apple Vision Pro while I was at Disneyland driving my Tesla. Yeah, like I've been in the mood to watch other things, but like you said, for this podcast, you have to watch it. So I kind of sat down and was like, all right, let's pull this Band-Aid off. But I'm glad I watched it because even in my like headspace where like I'm thinking about other things, I could still recognize like, wow, this is like really good.
It's a stunner, yeah.
Super well made.
Is it a movie I want to watch again? Not really.
Yeah. Probably not like a repeat viewing kind of watch. No. Just glad I've watched it.
Yeah.
I think I could probably watch Mud again. And the thing is, you know, interesting enough, because I know when we did New Mexico, we timed it with the release of Oppenheimer. Right. And I was talking about that, and I was like, I said, of all the Christopher Nolan movies, I don't think that's a movie that I'm really going to rewatch. I've watched it twice this week. I watched Oppenheimer twice this week.
Oh, that's why you were behind watching these movies.
Yes, because I watched 6 hours of
I'm so busy watching Oppenheimer 2 times. What?
I don't, you know what? I was wrong. So I might be wrong about these movies. You wait, Minari is going to become like some movie.
I did think it was strange that Minari had the blooper reel at the very end of the credits. That was
kind of took us out.
Yeah, it was just the grandma farting on everyone all the time.
Yes. God, she was great. Yeah, she was. Of all the movies we watched this week, she was the most memorable thing for me. Like,
no surprise, she won the Oscar for that particular
and
role.
Let's not forget the scene where she, she uses her herbal tea to invent Mountain Dew Code Red, which I was like, man, just what an origin story out of nowhere.
Yeah, it's in the Baja Blast trilogy, sure.
Yeah. The Minari cinematic universe. There's a whole thing there. Another movie that we got there, we're going to talk about, also nominated for 2 Academy Awards. Let's talk True Grit. Let's get into True Grit. Let's get into Cowboys. Let's get into another incredible cast. I mean, Jeff Bridges, Matt Damon, Josh Brolin, Barry Pepper, Hailee Steinfeld. This movie rocks. Interesting enough, Ryan, you texted on the thread that you were like, I'm getting through True Grit. This movie's so boring.
Yeah, no, like I said, before we started recording, it was just one of those things where I just wasn't in the mood to watch this movie. And that said, it is still an incredible film. I just, much like Will, you were watching Minari, I wasn't in the right headspace, which is never the way to go about doing this podcast. I feel like it's kind of cheating our fans and cheating ourselves. But the whole time I'm watching this, I'm like, I'd rather be watching like 3:10 to Yuma or something, not this. But
interesting. Yeah, I put I put this above 310 to you.
I see,
Yeah,
and I
sure.
like this movie, but I think I don't know. There's just something about it. I just
I
wasn't
like
in the mood.
that you brought up 310, and you know what? And Will,
Where
I'm
does
with
that take
you.
place?
Who's to say?
After watching True Grit, before watching it, I probably would have said what Ryan said, that 310 to Humor I think is better. But then when I watched True Grit, I'm like, I think True Grit's better. I'm not saying one's worse. I mean,
I think it's
bad.
definitely a better film, but
It's
I remember having more fun watching, 310 to Yuma.
See, that's what I'm saying, because True Grit's funny.
It
It's
is.
like it's a Coen Brothers movie where I keep laughing. Like it's all
Yeah.
these bits that are just like the unintentional comedy or deliberate comedy or just little moments and things and the way people talk and the lines and it's just all in the writing.
The editing too is
Yeah.
fantastic. When she's sleeping she's got to share the bed with the old lady, and it just kind of cuts back to her snoring, stealing the blanket. Like, I can relate to that.
And the old lady, the other people go, "Don't worry, you're not disturbing it." Yeah, that's what I was suggesting. It's like, so Hailee Steinfeld, she's found at 13 years old from like this massive like casting call of thousands of people, and
She wasn't in like on the Disney show or something like that.
no, I think
prior to
this is
First
where
thing. I was curious.
she began. I will double check this, but it's a she just because they were like very much they were very much like worried about if it doesn't work with the kid, then this movie doesn't work.
Yeah.
And the thing is, it
Yeah.
definitely works.
And it's a pretty mature script, and
yes, it's
she
a grown-up
delivers
role.
Yeah, she delivers these lines. Like, it is a phenomenal script, and the way she delivers these lines in this performance is very Coen Brothers, to say the least. Like,
Yeah.
it's so good.
She's a very like just it's that you learn everything you need to know about her character from the way she negotiates. So her father has died. Her father's been murdered by Josh Brolin's character. She turns up into town. She's got a very good lawyer. We know this because she mentions this.
Played by J.K.
I
Simmons.
was about to say that was J.K. Simmons' voice, right? Yeah.
Because I had just watched Whiplash, and I'm like, I know that fucking voice. My God.
But she goes in to negotiate like basically the buying back of some horses and then the compensation for another horse that was stolen. And she just talks this guy round in circles until she's like, at the end, he goes, okay, like my last offer, 300. She goes, okay, I will accept 320. It's like,
Yes.
it's just, and then as soon as he's done, she then tries to buy one of the horses she sold off to him, but for $10. And I'm like,
$10.
and that little bit where, she gets on the horse, always spirited, she rides up, say, thank you to your, to your man. And he goes, oh, no, ma'am. He says, I am never to mention your name ever again.
Yeah, the fact that she just so befuddles
And
these like
what was the name of the
matters.
What was the name of the horse? Say it.
Isn't it Blackie?
Say it. Yeah.
Is it Little Blackie? Right?
Racist, dog.
I've just been watching the first 2 seasons of Narcos, so that's one of the characters' names anyway.
Yeah.
But yes, no. So
Hailee Steinfeld is one of the character names in Narcos.
Yes, the horse.
Wow.
Actually.
Holy shit.
So she was in several short films at the age of 10, but it was True Grit. True Grit at 13.
Yeah, for sure.
And then from there, she was in Ender's Game, Begin Again, the Pitch Perfect movies, Edge of 17, which did I ever watch that? I've been meaning to watch that. I heard it's really good with Woody Harrelson. Apparently, it's very, very funny in that kind of realm of, oh my God, what's that? Booksmart and stuff like that. I've heard.
Okay.
Bumblebee, then the Spider-Verse movies. She's in Arcane. If you've never seen Arcane on Netflix, that's the League of Legends animated show that cost $100 million. It's fantastic. Emily Dickinson on Dickinson. I haven't watched any of that. And Kate Bishop in Hawkeye. She's great in that. I think she's fantastic. If I hear she's in a movie, I'm like, yep. I find her very, very watchable. And this is the movie that absolutely shows why.
Yeah, she's phenomenal in this movie.
She's
great.
Point is she a weak link in a movie of amazing actors. It's like everyone else is trying to keep up with Hailee Steinfeld.
She fits that into this Coen Brothers kind of universe so flawlessly. It's crazy. It's like a young Frances McDormand.
I'll take that. Yeah.
And it works because have either of you seen the original, the John Wayne original?
Negative.
No, you talked us out of it, man.
Yeah, you said this movie is shit, and I hate John Wayne.
Yeah.
The only John Wayne movie we've seen is The Birdcage.
Stick to that. I think it'll be great. The actor, and I forget her name it's some famous actor in the original. But the reason why it doesn't work in that movie is because she is like obviously a full-grown adult. And so when she is trying to do like all this like negotiating stuff or act like she's tough, it just doesn't work. When Hailee Steinfeld is like a tiny kid, like doing these like and acting like real mature, that's where like the character really becomes fully formed. It's like the Coens knew enough to cast an actual kid for the role, and like it works so much better.
Yeah.
Everything works so much better in this movie.
Yeah, and it's just by casting her as a kid, you know, for real, it works that people are always underestimating her. Everybody in this movie, pretty much, apart from like Rooster towards the end, underestimates her. They, you know, to the point that so we got Matt Damon turns up as LaBeef, a Texas Ranger, and I love that he's and he's great because the way he talks, he tries to speak more intelligently, or like, you know,
he's such a fucking creep too.
It's
like
great.
That first interaction.
Right off the bat, being like, "I would kiss you if it's
if the words coming out of your mouth weren't so like exactly right." But that's what I'm saying is like the negotiator completely underestimates her. Rooster Cogburn underestimates just how much she's willing to do. He tries to leave her behind. She gets herself across the river. Then you get Matt Damon like literally gives a spanking and like you switch. It's like he's just this. You are a frustrating child. Will you not do what we tell you to do? But like, you know, all the way up to her facing off with Josh Brolin. You know, is this at all points she's like, no, I'm here for vengeance. Yeah.
You're saying Kate Bishop went toe to toe with Thanos. Nice.
Kate Bishop, yes, she did.
Fucking nerds.
But that's, you know, so her whole thing is she is driven by a desire for, no, my father.
Justice, right?
He needs justice, yeah. And justice involves killing this motherfucker. And that's kind of like, you know, so she's a 14-year-old driven by this. You've got LaBeef's looking for him because he killed a state senator's dog in Texas or some shit. So there's a reward for him. And Jeff Bridges, he's just this notorious guy. You know, like we get a sort of introduction to him, you know, outside of him being a big drunkard, but like when he's in the court case, you know, he's testifying in court, and he's just like, how many guys have you killed? Like, do you ever arrest anybody? He's like, I lose count. And I just, every time he opens his mouth to speak as Rooster, especially when he's,
man.
And he's like, and the way he's, you know, because he's got his eye patch, and so he's constantly looking at people from like in that sort of in the same with the same crazy eyes as from one of the other Coen movies. That you remember from No Country for Old Men, the blind guy. I forget the actor's name, Steven something or other, but the guy that's doing the
Stephen Root.
Yeah.
Stephen Root. Oh yeah,
the way his eyes are. Like this.
Oh, in Oh Brother, where
he's in Oh Brother.
Oh yeah,
it's totally Rooster Cogburn's eyes. He's sometimes just like because he's just taking a sort of sizing her up kind of thing. There's so much. Just I can't take my eyes off Jeff Bridges in this movie whenever he's just on screen.
He's so good in this movie. What like my friend Michael and I back when we were roommates, we used to do a thing where we would just describe other movies in the voice of Rooster Cogburn. And it would just always, we'd be like, you know, you get the mogwai, just make sure you feed them, you know, before midnight. Don't get them wet. You know, like just, anytime like you could describe a movie in Rooster Cogburn's voice.
Do Minari.
Grandma, she kind of crazy. She liked a Mountain Dew, you know. Boy, piece of bread. Like that's it's so much fun to describe.
Broken ding dong.
Yeah, it's called a ding dong. Yeah,
great.
Okay,
do a segment.
This might be a new segment on the show. Is that Rooster Cogburn may have to review
Rooster Cogburn reviews.
Yeah, exactly. The guy lives in a boat. His name Bud. Them two boys horny and find a porno bag. Every movie works. Just have Rooster Cogburn describe every film.
Set up the TikTok right now.
I agree, Ryan. You just Rooster Cogburn reviews. It's it. That's it. 60-second reviews of movies by Rooster Cogburn. Will, you're going to be world famous. That is
there we go.
Thank you. Done.
Your cog runneth over. That's going to be a good one.
Oh my god, we're definitely revisiting that in future episodes. Just FYI. I'm writing this down. Rooster Cogburn reviews. Okay, putting this
See,
on.
them trolls were turning these little boys into wooden statues, and you got to go ahead and pour yourself a glass of the finest milk you can find.
Gotta go get some milk.
Yeah.
Or the kids a tree witch. Yeah. Just
Bill
all of
Paxton
it was
likes, Bill Paxton likes twisters.
great. A lot of tornadoes.
Yeah.
Ripping up the country. Yeah, it's all great. You can do any movie. Just be like
Major
Goes,
pain.
you can't be around
Major
the
pain.
bees. Just all that's great.
You've actually got me crying. You completely derailed the podcast because this is
Yeah,
such...
what movie are we talking about? Oh, the movie I'm
think we
doing
were
the voice
talking about
from.
True
Yeah.
Grit. Oh my god, there you go. You got me right. Okay, back on track. Well done, you. Yeah. So there's nothing. True Grit, kind of like we mentioned at the beginning. There's not a weak link in this movie.
Yeah.
I think the way
Donald Gleason pops up in this fucker.
No, yes, yeah,
Yeah.
that's right. And it's like
The guy from Dread. Again, unrecognizable. I was like, wait,
Yeah.
what?
well, just on the just. I mean, like everyone's kind of like, for example, even when Josh Brolin turns up and he's there and he's looking quite handsome, and then he's like, "Is that you, Manny?" He's like,
The wildest voice
Yeah.
you've ever heard.
I just watched
What?
his thing on, I think it was GQ, like on YouTube, where he just goes and the actors talk about all their roles.
Oh yeah, I
and,
like those
and I was
videos.
like, I just happened to watch that prior to this. I'm like, that's he's like to find that voice. Like he had this whole thing mapped out, and he's like, no, you just do a silly voice.
Mhm.
He cuts his hair with a knife because they don't go to barbers there, and that voice is hysterical.
Yeah,
He's
he
almost
tries to
unrecognizable too.
He tries to keep his lips from touching his teeth.
Yeah.
So is
Yeah,
that
just
Manny?
sounds
There
weird.
you is so scary. You're here.
Wallace.
The fuck?
It's so funny because I think the same year that this came out, Jonah Hex came out. So he was like in 2 westerns in the same year, and they could not be more different. He is not recognizable as the same person.
And he
either.
won the Academy Award for Jonah Hex, right?
For Jonah Hex. Yeah.
Sure. Yeah. Oof.
It's why there's a whole bunch of Hex heads today, because that movie like, is so
He's got the
massive.
Hex. He's got the Hex factor. Terrible movie that no one remembers or talks about still. So,
Or should they?
yeah. What state does that take place in?
State of Pain.
I'm just trying to look up because I was trying to see was this kind of like the start of his sort of like, because people knew Josh Brolin, of course, from the Goonies. But like he came back, and I want to say this was the movie that kind of like launched him back, wasn't it?
Was it this or was it No Country?
No Country for sure. Yeah.
No, hang on. So
Yeah, I can't remember which came out first.
Yeah, so No Country 2007. Okay, yes, did great. Then he rocked up in American Gangster same year. Okay, then he did W.
All right.
Okay, so you're right. I'd say that No Country was like where it started. Like, yeah, everyone was like, "Wait a minute, this guy's great," and he was so good in American Gangster. Then, yeah, you're right. Jonah Hex and True Grit same year. But
Yeah.
Men in Black 3, Gangster Squad, Guardians. Then he's like, yeah. Then we get into Avengers, Sicario. I mean, the guy's had he's great. I'm so glad he came back.
Yeah.
I think he's like, I'm really looking forward to just like if he's in something. Like I love him in Dune.
Yeah.
Have you guys seen the sequel yet?
No.
Yes, I'm not going to talk about that at all.
Wait, review it as Rooster Cogbert.
All I remember.
A lot of sand.
Worms.
Worms. But I went to go see the first Dune in a 4DX theater, which is the theater where they move you around in the seats and they spray you and there's smoke. And they had 3D glasses at the time, and it was such a funny experience. Like, there were parts you're not supposed to be laughing at, but because like people are getting shot or stabbed, you're getting like poked in the seat, and I'm just cracking up the entire time. It's so goofy. So when this new one came out, I'm like, I have to go see it in 4DX. I know I have to see the IMAX version. I have to see it in 4DX. It was like being on the Indiana Jones ride at Disneyland for 2.5 hours.
Wow.
Yeah.
You just constant. There's a lot of sandworm riding. There's a lot of like people in ships.
So that bit
Every
where
time there's
Javier
a fight-
Bardem spits, do you just get blasted in the fucking face?
Yeah, I mean, you're kind of joking, but there are parts where like things splatter and they just you all of a sudden be sitting there like
That's maybe one of the funniest bad lip readings they ever did was
This is one of my lines.
Yeah, the
Zendaya.
doing, oh my god, the song.
Yeah.
You're my heaven drip. Is that the one?
Yeah, that's right. Oh my god, I
That's
gotta
great.
remember.
I haven't seen this one.
I remember one,
Oh.
oh my god. I remember I think I was I think I remember watching it at your house with you and Zen, and we were just crying laughing.
There's some
It is
good.
so fucking good.
I love
It's
bad
too
lip reading.
yeah.
There's the 10-minute long Game of Thrones medieval fun time
Oh,
land
that's genius. Yeah.
is perhaps one of the greatest. The very first NFL bad lip reading is
Yeah.
I'm like, and the floor's just beanbags, and I'm like, what? Pick up all your beanbags. You're not living in Southeast Asia. I'm
Great.
like,
Yeah.
Or the famous Yoda song is another one that sticks
Yes,
out.
Oh,
and
that's like my dad's favorite. Yeah.
Twilight as well. I say it all the time. I'm just like, dude, you punched a fish.
Yeah, that's a
Anyway.
great one. Yeah.
We should get back to talking about True Grit because there is a lot to talk about. Because like you were talking about mindset, I'm like True Grit. I went in, forgetting that I was going to be laughing quite so much, and I'd say I couldn't get enough of Matt Damon as LaBeef. Like he's having fun, and
Mhm.
I love everyone's accent work, and he's like maybe you keep both eyes on, or in this case your eye, and it's like
Your famous line, yeah.
and like for half the movie, he can't really speak because he gets shot by Rooster and he bites his tongue. And it's that bit where Rooster's kind of like, no, I just feel like I can pull out the tongue. It's no problem. He's just fucking with him the whole time. And I was just like, I was just cracking up. Like that the random bear guy who was also like a dentist.
Oh, I loved that guy. Yeah.
He just turns up for one scene and like give the guy an Oscar. Who is this guy?
Yeah.
I was had to look this guy up, but he's just like.
That's the Coen brothers are so good at doing that. Is like there's no small parts. Like anyone who just is a day player just shows up, just fits that universe so well and steals the show in just one scene.
Do any of you
That's-
need any medical attention?
God, oh, that guy was great. I love characters like that just pop up and just the weirdest person ever, and then all right, that's it. They're done for the movie.
Yeah,
Wait,
please
that's
come
it.
back, but please do some more. So essentially the plot is that she hires Rooster Cogburn to go and find Josh Brolin's character. Part of the deal is for that $50 is she gets to come along. He tries to renege on that. He teams up with Matt Damon, who, like I've explained, is looking for him for a different reason. But she fights her way to get over and just essentially forces her way into this trio that kind of for a while go on this adventure. After a little while, in the end of the first act or so, LaBeef goes off by himself. He's just like, I cannot deal with this. I'm going off to find him. May the best man win, kind of thing.
Mhm.
And we kind of learn that as it goes on and on and on, that Rooster Cogburn is very, very good at his job. He's kind of like Christoph Waltz's character from Django.
Yeah.
He just kind of knows his way around because part of it is Josh Brolin's run off into Indian country. So and Jeff Bridges' character Rooster, he's very good about knowing this kind of place. He knows this area, tracks him pretty well, and it's this slow drip, drip, drip. It's not so much like you see. We talked Tombstone earlier and stuff like that, but you'll get shots of, they're running away in the foreground, and you get shots of the other guys in the background. It's none of that. It's very much like they're following. They come across a dead body. You come across a random character.
Yeah.
We come across like this barn. Like so,
It's a detective story,
in a way. One of my favorite little bits of the movie is that because there's that shack in the middle of nowhere where Rooster gets information that we end up at the end of the movie. That's where they can get
where he's just abusing those children.
That's exactly. So there's the two native kids sitting outside, and it's just Rooster Cogburn's entire thing is just kicking them up the ass and pushing them off the thing. It is so funny.
It was very funny.
No reason for it. No explanation for it. It's just boom, just kicks the kid off, and it just falls on the ground. The kids don't even speak, and I'm like, that scene boils down the movie. It feels very real. It feels like it's shot because it is in the middle of nowhere. It feels very gritty, quite true, in fact, to that grit. But then the comedy, Will's face is like, wait a minute.
Hold on.
You're doing it. You're doing it.
But yeah, that scene, I think it boils down the whole movie because it doesn't give us the scene inside. We just infer what's happening. All right, it moves the plot forward. There's characters that just turn up that never return, and it infuses random bits of comedy into it. I mean, that whole scene is True Grit, is the movie. That's welcome coming to my TED Talk.
Yeah, it's much better about doing like all the world building, and like just showing off like just how odd this journey is than the original movie, which is just all a showcase for like, hey, can John Wayne act? And no, but we're gonna give him the Oscar anyway.
But boy, can he walk.
But boy, can he be racist in real life and bully people and shame people for not joining the military, even though he was a draft dodger. Anyway,
Bone Spurs,
John
right?
Wayne, terrible, terrible, terrible human being. Jeff Bridges is a national treasure, and we should thank that guy every day.
ChatGPT, write me an apology letter for.
I will never apologize to John Wayne.
As Rooster Cogburn.
That guy sucks.
But then, like, it kind of gets to this point of the trail's gone cold, and it gets to this point of Jeff Bridges gets hammered drunk. So we have this scene with another. So we come across another sort of like shack in the middle of nowhere, and the reason being is we're trying to track down Lucky something or other, Barry Pepper's character. Because apparently it finds out that Josh Brolin is kind of rolling with this other group. And so it kind of sets up the scene. So we've got Domhnall Gleeson and this other guy whose name is escaping me, and we're kind of like, we're investigating. We're like, well, what's going on? Where's Josh Brolin? He's trying to investigate, and Rooster's quizzing them. And one of the guys has got his walls up, and you can tell Domhnall Gleeson is kind of like softening up.
Meek, yeah.
And what, as far as a twist of a scene goes, this scene goes from 0 to 100, very Tarantino-esque of like,
yeah.
It just becomes hyper violent and something happens. But the bit where the guy pulls out his fucking knife and chops off Domhnall Gleeson's like
fingers,
and you just get
hand.
Like,
it's so cartoony.
Yeah, knife in chest, shoot guy in head, and then like,
I'm dying.
Yeah, it's like, what a crazy scene. Like that's why the movie, you can never quite just sit on, you never quite know where it's going.
Right. It is a very good like detective noir, just set in like a Western.
Yeah.
Right.
Because then he stabs them and it's like, oh, this is the one person they need to give them the information. Dies.
Well, he gives them the information. So then they set up. All right, we set up a great ambush, and we hear Rooster's plan, and Rooster's plan is good. And even Hailee Steinfeld is like, "Oh, that is, you are quite the you're a wily old man.
You have true grit, sir."
Yeah. And but then of course we get that little spanner in the works is that LaBeef shows up, at that same place, but again, very sort of Coen-y brothers sort of thing that, if we're not party to a conversation, we don't hear it, because we're from a perspective of other people, right? So there's something going on down there, but we're watching it from 400 yards.
Yeah.
And then when it all kicks off, when Rooster starts shooting, it's very much that scene is played out from a distance. It's really kind of exciting and fun.
It's that cutting back and forth to them, like on the top of the mountain, like overlooking the plain below, and then them riding towards each other, and
it builds tension. Yeah. Interesting enough, I think I was reading somewhere that because Hailee Steinfeld was 13, laws mean that you can't shoot past midnight. So, and half the movie takes place at night. So anything at night where it's from behind, it's apparently it's an adult double.
It's Adam Driver.
Yeah.
It's adult driver.
Just with this beautiful, like, he's got these.
He's got the braids. He's like, I was in Shane, right? Yeah.
I know, you told me the story.
It gets to that point of like Rooster gets hammered because there's all this whiskey that these boys had inside the thing. So for that next scene, we've just got Rooster's been up drinking all night, and we get that scene of them riding, but like Rooster, like, so Jeff Bridges plays drunk Jeff Bridges. He's doing it amazing. Yeah. And it becomes this kind of showdown between LaBeef and Rooster for like, I can shoot 300 yards, I can watch this. And he's throwing shit up into the air and he's shooting it. And like, they're shooting cornbread. What are you shooting for his mouth? I'm supposed to do it. And just the way he drunkenly throws things. I mean, just the body acting of Jeff Bridges in this particular scene. My favorite being the last time when he sort of throws it, the jacket goes over his face, he kind of falls over and shoots. I'm just like, This movie it's constantly surprising me, and I realize just how much I was enjoying it that I'm like, okay, this movie
It's
is
fun. It takes itself like just seriously enough. Like it's a very serious story, but you get these moments of like brevity and sprinkled in. It's a classic Coen Brothers comedy, you know?
You're right. That's exactly what I was saying. There is the just serious enough because it is a serious Western. It does have like all those things that we like and showdowns, but yeah, it's just
It makes it feel so much more real with those bits of comedy, you know?
I think
it makes
so.
the characters more grounded and realistic
Yeah.
too.
Yeah, I agree with you. It doesn't take away from it; it adds to it. And it's like, in the same way that you were saying with any character that does turn up as a fully realized random human being. But we and then it just sort of twists on a moment where it's like, all right, well, LaBeef's like, look, to be honest, the trails run cold. He's right. This guy's gone. I'm heading back to Texas. Fuck you, Jeff Bridges. I'm out, and he is. But then the next morning, just we get that little twist that Maddie goes to get water, which has kind of been established sort of like in the movie as well. But suddenly, there he is. There's Josh Brolin.
I know you.
I know you. You're Maddie. What are you doing here? You come over here.
Christ. That voice is very upsetting.
I feel like I'm nailing it, to be honest. I feel like
I'm nailing something.
But then you get that cool, like I said, everyone underestimates Maddie. She pulls out her dad's pistol, and he comes towards, and she shoots him. And it's like, but then it sets up this whole excellent last 20 minutes of a Western of she's been taken by Barry Pepper's gang, where Josh Brolin is involved with. We've had a bit of a shootout with Rooster, and we have had this moment that Rooster's told us about where, you're never quite sure, and I think it's even something they say in the movies, you're never quite sure if what he's saying is true or not. But he tells the story about how he rode down 7 guys. He just put the reins between his teeth and he rode them down and just, whooped their ass. And
with 2 pistols, yeah.
Yeah, he's like, well, believe it or not, it's what I did. And it kind of like, it sets up this great, and it's beautifully shot. I mean, you got to just, Roger Deakins, you motherfucker, they find this beautiful place. I think it's in New Mexico, but you've got this valley in front of us, you've got mountains in the background, we've got this cliff in the foreground where we are. And we kind of like, we're able to see this whole sort of situation play off, which essentially is because they've taken her hostage, they negotiate with Jeff Bridges. You ride off over that mountain over there. Once we see you leave, we're going to leave. We'll leave her. You can come back and get her. But of the twist of it being apparently he's bumped into LaBeef. Because, we get that moment of 2 things happening at the same time. We've got Josh Brolin murdering Hailee Steinfeld. Suddenly LaBeef comes back, but then we get the amazing scene, and which I think is just the bit that everyone remembers, which is just Rooster comes out, faces off with those guys, and I love it. It just goes, well, puts them between riding these motherfuckers.
He's doing it. He's doing
the true grit thing.
He's true gritting. Yeah.
Yeah, and it's awesome. It's like such a satisfying like moment where you really do discover like, Rooster, he's a drunkard, he's a mess, there's all that, but everything you heard about him is true. He is actually like, he does have true grit. Get like the title.
Nice.
And he's
it.
just that good at his job. Like he can run these guys down.
Oh yeah.
And then I guess it's because it's based off a book, because I mean anywhere else in the realm of movie land, that's where a movie ends.
Right.
But it doesn't. Because we have this moment where Rooster's kind of pinned under his horse. Barry Pepper is like, well, I'm shot to pieces. He knows he's dying. But he's like, you're not going to make it either. But we get LaBeef, with that rifle he's been spinning yarns about the entire movie. He takes that 400-yard shot. And I love the bit that is like, she's like, wow, that is great. And he goes, well, this rifle is. And then Brolin just comes and goes, shut the fuck up.
Yeah. He bonks him so good. And then you get, you get that whole bit in her with the cave, and then he's like, LaBeef, he's been smashing his head, and he's dead. And he comes back and he's still alive. He's like, what the hell, man? I love that.
It's Chekhov's pit. Be careful, there's a pit right there. That twice gets mentioned. Right. So she gets the drop on Josh Brolin. She's got that rifle. And she, again, I love her character. Is like she gets it. She gets her vengeance. She blows a hole in his chest the size of New Mexico. But she goes falling down that pit, ends up getting bitten by a snake. Second movie with a snake bite. But then, like, that's where you learn that other thing about Rooster, and like, is that he runs the horse to death to get her back, and then picks her up and runs her across. Like,
why does he need to shoot the horse in the head?
oh, it's because it's dying. It's putting it out of its misery.
All right.
He's ridden it
I
past.
thought it was just sleepy.
He's ridden it past the point of exhaustion. It's like it needs water. It's just gonna die and suffer. And he's like, no, all right, bang, thank you very much. But yeah, and then runs her to the sort of like the place. You get that really sort of heroic sort of scene, and then that bit where he kind of drops to his knees, shoots the gun in the air, and we never ever again never see who's inside this damn place. It just, and then it goes 25.
It's the two kids he was kicking off of the porch. And they're like, fuck you.
Oh,
dude.
now you want help? Yeah.
Well. This is my old nemesis.
Bitten by a snake. Girl need help.
Yeah.
Whiskey time. But yeah, that's again. Then you think the movie's going to end there, but no. We jump 20-something years in the future, where she is a grizzled old lady of 39 years old.
Disgusting.
They put out, and interesting enough, they instead of using special effects or anything like that, they just put out a big casting call for an actress in their 40s with one arm. So the actress that plays her, she was born without a forearm, so that kind of like fits in. She plays the character brilliantly.
Yeah. And
it's like
I never would have guessed that. That's cool.
And it's like, no, I was surprised when I saw that as well. But, it kind of ends up that Rooster was in his, like, whatever, his 90s or something. He's on a Wild West show, sends her a letter 20-something years after the fact, says, come out, let's reminisce about our time on the trail. She comes all the way out.
Come out to the coast, have a few laughs.
Yeah. It turns out Rooster died 3 days before.
Died hard.
So she takes his body, gets it exhumed, takes it back, buries it on the family plot. And then it's essentially just sort of credits. We get that bit. She's like, I never took to marriage. I never had the time. She was just a hard lady that lived her life hard, and then she walks off into the sunset and the credits roll. And I'm like,
she does have that one last dig at LaBeef though about his cowlick.
Yeah.
It's good.
But like, yeah, it's a very satisfying watch. And it's nothing ambiguous about the ending either. It's like oh, it's done, and here's the future, and she's fine, lost her arm, he dies, and LaBeef, the end. I love it. I feel like this movie's great, and I forgot how much.
It's good.
I've only seen it once, and I think I watched it like it must be in about 2012 when I watched it, and I remember really enjoying it. I think I own it on Blu-ray, to be honest. I just had never returned to watch it. Yeah. And I was like, oh yeah, this, because some Coen Brothers movies, like No Country for Old Men, ambiguous ending, kind of, bit of a bummer. Josh Brolin's character dies 3/4 of the way through, kind of thing. You're like, oh okay.
Off screen, yeah.
And so True Grit is like it's like this is a very, very satisfying. And it's no surprise. I think it's their most profitable movie. It made $250 million. So
that's crazy.
Of all the Coen Brothers movies, this was their most successful. I also got, was it not Academy Award nominated? I'm pretty sure Jeff Bridges got nominated.
I'm almost positive. It's funny that, because I think the ending's good. I like it. But I know one of the common criticisms about this movie is they're like, wait, that's the end? Like, I've heard a lot of people be like, that's it? Like, they killed a guy and then they just live their lives and then that's it. There's nothing.
She lives her life without a man. What?
Yeah, I think that's what people are responding to, is a little bit of like, well, it is sad that she didn't like go off to have a family of her own. But I mean, like, in terms, I've heard a lot of people express where they're like, that's it. So then, like, that's it. That's the whole movie. I'm like, yeah, they killed the guy. They went on the journey. Like,
she got vengeance. Yeah, exactly. The end. Credits. It just gave you a little epilogue to let you know everything was okay. Yeah,
you got to hear Bridges say "love beef" like a whole lot, and what more do you need in a movie?
Hailee Steinfeld will return.
Her grandma.
Where's LaBeef?
In the comedy sequel to this, what's the beef?
What's the beef? What's the beef, or where's the beef?
It's that's a good one. It got nominated for 10 Academy Awards and won 0.
That's it.
Yeah. But yeah,
it won 0. Wow. What was
none.
what else came out that year? Was it 2010?
2010 movie. So let me do a little bit. Let's see if I can find this because I'm using.
Was that Shrek 4? I think swept the Oscars.
Hell yeah. Shrek will ride again, and
Yeah.
Shrek.
Oh wait, hang on. Was there? No, there's BAFTAs. Yeah, 10 Academy. So wouldn't that be the 2011? Academy
Possibly.
Awards?
This is already taking too long.
Yeah, it was. Yeah, no, you're right. Black Swan. Is that the year of Black Swan and stuff? King's Speech, the final. Yeah, there's a lot of.
Oh, yeah.
Oh, King's Speech. Yeah. Yeah.
Let me see. I maybe.
I like, but I can't believe that walked away with so many awards.
No, that's something that's Chef. So yeah, it was up against King's Speech, Beautiful, The Social Network, 127 Hours, The Fighter, Winter's Bone, The Town. It's a big year. So yeah, I think the King's Speech took a lot.
Yeah,
sure. Over The Social Network, which is insane.
Yeah,
absolutely nuts.
And then
and that movie had 2 army hammers.
Wally Pfister, he won for cinematography for Inception. So Inception won over True.
All right.
So I'm like, all right, okay.
Well.
The King's Speech won Best Director over The Social Network, Black Swan, The Fighter, and True Grit. Disagree on that one. Though I do
pretty good year for movies, though. Pretty good year.
That was a crazy good year for movies, and a crazy good week for movies as well, guys. Just like all 3 of these movies were absolutely incredible. I was talking to Mrs. Like, I don't know what we did. We accidentally picked like we're a real.
Yeah. Well, I thought it was going to be really hard to top the week prior where we got to watch an Ernest movie, but
turns out there wasn't an Ernest movie made in Arkansas. That's the only problem.
Thank God.
Are we sure about that?
Let's assume there's not.
My algorithm.
There are a lot of movies. Of Ernest movies. But so what we like to do on this podcast is to try and find the movie that is the most defining movie for Arkansas. Now, interestingly enough, kind of like I mentioned a little bit, is that True Grit was mostly shot in New Mexico. I think there was a little bit of Texas, but it was mostly shot in New Mexico. You've got Minari, shot for 25 days near Tulsa, Oklahoma, which, let's be honest, it's not exactly far removed from Arkansas. And then we've got Mud, which was largest production in the state, shot all through Arkansas, had a bunch of Arkansas people, actors, cast, crew, background, and everything. So if we're just going on pure that, Mud is off to a bit of a head start. But at the same time, the Arkansas of it, I think all 3 of these movies, like, I can find it sometimes easier to take a movie out because, all right, it's obviously shot on a soundstage, and like, even though it's got maybe, but in all of these movies are shot on location. All these movies are steady camming, or they're using like small cameras. They're bringing you into this. You can feel, you can smell, you can everything. All of these movies. That's that one thing is that like they really do make you like feel like you are out there in all of these movies. So what I throw it to you guys. What's your initial reaction?
Yeah, sorry. I was just thinking you're so right. I mean, I don't think you can take the Arkansas out of any of these films. Though for me, True Grit does feel like it for some reason, I just had this like Texas.
I was going to say
running through my mind. Like it.
Well, it's because you got a Texas Ranger, and but also it's got that, it's something I talk about a lot as that Englishman in Texas is you think Texas, you kind of think that opening scene of True Grit, which it's dusty and I'm like, that's not Texas. Like it's West Texas.
True.
But the rest of Texas is like the hill country and everything else and the trees and the grass and stuff.
Well, this movie was set in the past, right?
There were trees in the past, Ryan. Actually, quite a bit more of them than there are now.
Don't go down your global warming tirade. Don't do that.
We're a woke
Save
podcast.
that for your other podcast. No, but sorry, I forgot what we were talking about. I don't know. Like all these movies just feel so those style of movies feel so Texas to me, even though they're set in like New Mexico or whatever. Like even No Country for Old Men. I know it's like a New Mexico kind of movie, but it still feels like a Texas.
It's set in Texas. It's just
right.
It's just shot.
Well, see, there you go. It's very confusing, and I can't keep up with it.
It's the same as Hell or High Water. Also shot.
Another one. Yeah.
Modern,
like a modern Western is what they're kind of grouped under. And this still had that. It felt like a modern Western, even though it's set in in the before times.
I'll tell you what. I'll tell you what. I can actually agree with you about this True Grit thing. Is that when the movie started and they turned up in Fort whatever it was, and I immediately Googled it. Is that in Arkansas? Okay, that is in Arkansas. And then she mentions that she lives in this other place, and I was like,
Yeah.
and I think that, and I Google, okay, it is in Arkansas, but it's like it doesn't really matter. And then interesting enough that when they go into Indian country, if you actually look on that map, that actually goes into bits of Oklahoma and bits of like 3 or 4 different states. So the Arkansas of this movie, it is literally set in Arkansas. These places are set in Arkansas, and they do mention it, but it's not.
No, they don't hit you over the head with it. Here, let me paint you a picture. Mud opens with a shot of an Arkansas license plate.
It actually does.
Oh, there you
True.
go.
And which was our excuse for Daryl for Virginia.
I mean, I didn't want to say it,
but I burst out laughing. Like, oh, it's the Daryl shot.
It's the Daryl shot.
We're in this state. It's done, guys. We
You've
can
heard
relax.
of the Tootsie shot. Get ready for the Daryl shot. It's just a shot of a license plate on a car or on a wall, whatever. But,
Opening shot.
Yeah, I mean,
what do you think,
yeah. Sorry, go ahead.
Oh, I was gonna say I'm leaning towards Mud, just because not only is the production so Arkansas heavy, but the story is, the writer and director is from there. Jeff Nichols is from there.
Sure.
He wrote it specifically. He forced the production to like film in Arkansas. It's just so part of every aspect of that movie. Whereas the others, like Minari, it takes place on an Arkansas farm, but you're really only getting that little
Snippet.
Snippet of that family's experience. And True Grit, I could kind of, I feel like you could set that kind of anywhere in the Old West, not just Texas, but well, maybe not Texas because it's not super flat. But like anywhere, Arizona would work just as well.
It's got a huge, broad, like Midwest scope to it. Whereas a Mud feels like a very, very self-contained Arkansas story in this small town,
But and then I guess with what Will's saying is that Minari is almost too contained. Like the only real taste we get of Arkansas is a little bit of being in the factory, and then the only other really thing that we experience is the church, right? So we get to see other people. Whereas Mud gives us the idea of townies. It gives us the idea of like we get the town and like everything. We got people living on the river. We've got people that just want to be left alone. We got
get more of the culture too of these people, their daily lives. Yeah,
you're getting people that are living in their trailers or their boat houses. You got it's all about understanding where they live, and it's some weeks it's hard and other weeks it's not. But I think that kind of what Will said and Ryan, what you said is like the thing with Jeff Nichols as well is that so much of the movie was Arkansas, shot in Arkansas, set in with people from. I think of all the movies, if you watch them, you've got an understanding of what Arkansas feels like, looks like, and is. That I think it's kind of I think it was you, Will. I think you were saying regarding sort of Jeff Nichols movies. I can't remember the exact term you used, but it's like it was fables or
like a grounded fable, like a grounded fairy tale.
Fairy tale. That's what you said. And I think Mud is the Arkansas fairy tale. It's got a little bit of everything in there, and I mean that in all the good and the bad ways. It's like it's
very American Gothic, in that
there you go. Exactly. That's perfect.
And I also thought it's just a fucking great movie. That it would be. I think I as much I like to sometimes mix it up, but I think it's pretty much an open and shut case for Mud. Is there any arguments on this one?
No, I agree. I think so. I think so.
So okay, well, I'm gonna do that right now. So I'm gonna put my foot down, bish bash bosh. We're done on that one. That the official movie to represent Arkansas, and it is a great movie.
It is.
And I think people of Arkansas are going to be happy with this one, but the movie to represent Arkansas here at the United States of Movie, at least until we can find another movie to topple it, is the 2012 movie Mud, written and directed by Jeff Nichols, starring Matthew McConaughey, Ty Sheridan, Sam Shepard, Michael Shannon, Sarah Paulson, Reese Witherspoon, and many, many, many more. quickly though, I want to talk about like, and it's something we've been getting into recently in the last sort of few weeks of movies we would recommend. I don't think there is a single movie here we wouldn't.
No, and
Right,
Mud is a fascinating one because you're either in two camps. You've either never heard of it or you saw it once vaguely back in the day. But it's a strong recommend. I think it's such a great movie to watch.
Yeah,
Really
and I
do.
think
Yeah.
like
I mean, they all are really.
yeah, that's what I mean. I guess it's sort of like I guess what we should get into is like what mood do you have to be in? I think True Grit
Yeah.
you can throw on in any kind of mood. And I know Ryan,
I
was like,
agree.
I don't know, but like it is funny. It is funny and it's fun to watch.
Yeah.
Mud, I think, is like I think it's also a you can pretty much throw that on.
Yeah.
Minari, I think
Yeah.
you need to be in the right frame of mind.
Yes, that's the only
I
one
can
that
attest
is.
to that, yes.
Yeah, that's not like, hey, let's get the girls together and
Watch
get a bottle.
Minari.
Yeah,
Yeah.
girl, let's get a girl. No. Call your grandmother.
Yes. Hug your
Yeah, no,
children.
I agree. It's I do the whole like call the girls together, when we're watching
Sure.
Inherit the Wind. That's that
Inherit the Wind.
Right.
but yeah, I could personally attest to like I said, I was just kind of watching this movie like it's good. Is it over yet? Even though I was enjoying the movie, I didn't hate it, but I was just not in the right frame of mind for it. I need to watch it again, I think, to fully appreciate it.
There's nothing to be lost from watching any of these movies again. But also what we like to talk about is the also rounds, the movies we almost chose, the movies we may be choosing once we return to the state of Arkansas. Granted, there was the original True Grit, which we certainly were considering, but Will hates John.
Right. Mm-hmm.
So I know what I'm picking next time. There was
Will had another banger he was going to bring to the table, though.
I was very, very stoked to
Yes.
possibly make you guys watch Legend of Boggy Creek.
Mm-hmm.
Oh yes, I was
Or Legend of Boggy Creek 2, which I've seen a million times.
Jeez.
But
Never
I
heard of
think
these.
the people of Arkansas would be mad if we
Yeah, I
brought
was
that up. Just be like, how
excited
dare
though.
you?
I was excited. I kind of thought it'd be fun to throw in something because we had
Just
such
utter
great
trash.
movies. Yeah, it's just some trash. Would be fun. Another movie that I sort of circled that actually, Ryan, you had someone talking about, you were mentioning the podcast and they threw a movie out.
Yeah. American Made, the
American
Tom
Made.
Cruise drug running movie.
The Doug Liman.
Where he cleans rich people's houses in a French maid outfit. Right?
Yep.
That's,
Mhm.
or am I thinking of my dream?
You're thinking of American Honey, no?
That's right.
I'm interested. I want. Oh my God, guys, we're watching this next time. It is a 2016 American science fiction action horror film.
Arkansas Women's Prison Massacre.
Yes, it's Arkansas Women's Prison Massacre.
It is? Oh my
Yes.
God, shut up.
Based on a
What?
true story, I think.
Did we just become best friends?
Starring Dominic Swain and Tracy Lords. Tracy Lords was
Oh no!
Oh wow.
famously from Blade.
From Blade?
Wait.
Famously
Oh,
from
wait.
Blade.
Yes, famously.
Recent Tracy Lords, I'm hoping,
Yes,
right?
yes,
Okay.
Oh boy.
2016, as opposed to one of the
Okay.
hundreds of porn movies she made as a teenager.
Allegedly.
Yeah, the dark stuff there. Yikes.
No, look, the B Movie Film Vault gave this film 2.5 out of 5 stars. Let's just quickly, two employees of the Arkansas fracking industries are busy detonating explosives near a state prison for women and inadvertently release a shark covered in spikes into the surrounding swamp. Guys, I think I know what we're doing next time.
I hate it when a spike shark comes into your women's prison. It's just, it's a problem Biden has not addressed yet.
Where can you watch this pile of shit?
I'm intrigued. That I want to say if we do that and the Legend of Boggy Creek. Sling Blade, I've never seen that. Is that actually set in Arkansas? It is.
Oh, that's actually, you can do the Rooster Godburn voice for that too. Some folk call it a Sling Blade. Yeah.
I think I've even got that on my iTunes and just never watched it. Someone made me buy it. I'm like, yeah, okay, I'll watch that.
The short film is better, but the movie's still good.
Yeah, I've heard. Didn't he win an Oscar for this though? Okay, interesting.
Oh, yeah.
All right, that's good. It tries to say The Firm. That doesn't count. That's in another place. Command and Control. Interesting.
About this Fighting Mad, this Jonathan Demme directed film about an Arkansas farmer played by Peter Fonda who uses guerrilla tactics against corrupt land developers attempting to evict his family and his neighbors in order to strip mine their land.
Guys,
How
we've
is
got...
Joe Don Baker not the star?
I know, I was about
Yeah.
to say, it sounds
Hang on.
exactly like last week's movie. This is, okay, guys, should we just do Arkansas again?
Arkansas Part 2 next week. Here we go.
Well, so look, so there we go. Look, I kind of said it to you guys before we started rolling, but if you made me guess after 41 episodes that of all the states to have absolute wall-to-wall bangers, Arkansas, you have come out of the gates strong, and it looks like you're going to keep going strong.
Yeah, the worst part is that you're gonna have to wait an entire year to get these three shitty movies back.
We just need to find some comedian from Arkansas, and we can do a challenge episode. That's what we're going to do.
Yeah,
but yeah, there are a lot of movies that we can get into. There's even like, was it White Lightning as well? Is that Reynolds movie as well, guys?
I thought it was Black Hammer.
Yeah,
well, that's another parts of the. I'm not allowed in those states.
That's the sequel. Yeah, so there's a lot that we can get into this week, guys. Fantastic choices. I'm really, really blown away by the movies that we got to watch this week. Which means that we're now gonna. I think we can only be disappointed by whatever we do.
Yeah.
Next week, so I'm going to go again to the magical pen method of where we end up. I'm going to throw the magical pen, and wherever we land, and whichever one it's closest to, is where we're going. Oh, it's on the ground, so that doesn't work. Ooh, okay. All right, we are pointing directly at Maryland.
Ooh.
So,
all right, we're going to watch all 5 seasons of The Wire.
Okay. Done. Absolutely. I think I actually have a little suspicion about something I might be picking for this one, actually, now I think about it. But yes, okay, so next week here on the United States of Movie Podcast, we're going to be taking down the state of Maryland. We have just taken down yet another episode. That would be Arkansas. And for everybody at home, I just want to say thank you very much. There are hundreds of you that like to listen to this podcast and like to watch us on YouTube. And one thing that we want to say from us to you is, one, thank you very much. But 2, take part. Please take part. Drop some comments on our YouTube videos to let us know the movies that you think you'd want us to talk about, or just to tell us we suck. Either way, you're going to help the algorithm. Subscribe, hit a little notification bell. That would be awesome as well. But also do what Ryan does and we all do. Go out and talk about the podcast with people that like movies. Get them on board, because this is a movie podcast for people that love movies. This is for you guys, and we really do enjoy getting into this as well. If you're listening to us on Apple or on Spotify and you don't already, please follow us or rate us if you can. And drop by on our Facebook page, The United States of a Movie. We've started posting little clips from the show, which has been quite fun. We find all these little funny moments, which are fun to sort of post on there as well, which is good. And you can also find us on our Reddit, United States of a Movie. I'm Ollie Pettigrew. You can find me as That Englishman in Texas. Every Monday, most Mondays, I'll do a video about movies and about podcasts, which is always fun. You can find Will talking about movies on his TikTok or Instagram as Entitled Millennial, and you can always find Ryan's interesting designs, some of which inspired by this very podcast. But also, if you look over his shoulder, you see he is a big fan of movie posters. Well, he likes to design his own movie posters, and they are absolutely brilliant, and they are available to purchase on his Threadless, on his Etsy. You can find him as Rhino Digital, RYNO Digital. Which leaves nothing more than for guys. I just want to say thank you, Ryan, and thank you, Will, for once again joining me on this show.
Always a pleasure. Always.
We've been doing this for 41 weeks, but to everybody else, listeners and viewers, thank you so much for joining us on this episode of the United States of a Movie Podcast.